Good evening then, ladies and gentlemen across the world. Welcome aboard to the Algarve in the WOR Legacy Division. This is Season 2, and it's round number 2, as I said, here in Portugal. Thank you very much for being alongside us for this one. It's going to be a very, very intense race ahead of us here in the hills of Portugal. Of course, we have 15 turns and 2.8 miles worth of circuit, with those 2 DRS zones, the first one being very crucial going into turn 1. We're expecting that one to be the hot spot for some racing, but don't discredit turns 10 through 14. They are going to be the make or breakers for a few of the drivers out here tonight. It is going to be myself, Jota, alongside none other than the OG Callum G himself. Thank you very much for being alongside us for this one. We are going to be in, I think, for a particularly intense race here in the Algarve, especially as the clouds starting to form over the top at the moment.
Yes, certainly. Good evening, everyone. It is good to be here tonight. Back a little bit more of a traditional track, you could say, a little bit unorthodox last week at a season opener at Monaco, but I think to many relief of the drivers, we are here at Portugal a bit more open, a little bit more of what you would say is a traditional track. So yeah, I'm certainly looking forward to it, and it should be a good one.
Yeah, certainly looking forward to seeing what we've got coming up, as Ollie Loveland immediately arriving in the chat saying good evening to yourself, sir. Hope you're doing well as we go on board with the Haas drivers as we start off immediately out the box with Juventus Racing. Now, JR Francesco and the driver at the moment, racing now, just heading through himself into turn 3 Lagos at the moment. Portugal, though, particularly interesting circuit here because, of course, we are on cross-play, so we've got PlayStation versus Xbox. Xbox may have, well, what PlayStation will argue is more grip, but Xbox will argue PlayStation could ride the curbs around here, and I think that is probably the make or breaker for a few of these teams here tonight.
Yeah, it's all tit for tat this, seeing what console's better, but Joe, it's a good track. Nonetheless, I think as well, it's a time where we'll see a lot of controller drivers. It is nights like this when you've got a roster. Remember, drivers can only, is it what, 5 a season or 5 every couple rounds? They can only race 3. There's some rule about drivers can only race every now and then. So these controller drivers, this is a time to shine. A track like this, the grip's limited. It's a lot of traction zones. This is a great track for it. So we might see a couple of names tonight that you don't normally see throughout the season. And this is certainly their time to shine. So that'll be certainly interesting. They're just looking on board with the Juventus driver, currently in P19, but no lap time set, of course. So he'll be the first one, I think, to set a lap time, and he will be a banker for the rest of this session. So just coming at that final corner now, easily flat, and these cars have come across line to set a 1 minute 18.0.
And I have absolutely no idea what that means in comparison to drivers around. His teammates gone 0.4 of a second faster, though. We know that much as we just go on board with the former FRA driver now racing for TV8 in Stoke here, as he's now heading around the lap on a bit of an outlap by the looks of things at the moment. He's not taking it very gingerly around the circuit at the moment, so we'll why don't we go away actually and just have a very quick look actually at his teammate JTO40. Looks like he had a bit of a half spin actually coming out and around of turn 15 at Galp, so not particularly the best start to his lap here, and it's actually a track extending ever so slightly as well, but he's really struggling with the oversteer and then the understeer. That Red Bull is not looking strong at the moment.
No, it certainly isn't. It looks to have a little bit of a tough time of it, and yeah, I think he might have backed off, and yeah, let's just see if he can try and go again. I think this is Stokey now, coming around the final corner, but nope, he's looking to start a lap, I think. So, yeah, got a couple of lap times at the moment, but at the moment it is outplayed. As are your main guys at the front. They had a pretty good week last week at Monaco, picking up 12 points. Currently sitting 4th in the Constructors. It doesn't mean a hell of a lot early on, but a nice start to the season is always pretty positive, and that's something that couldn't be said for PSR last week, because they had a little bit of a shocker, I think it would be fair to say, in Monaco.
Just hopping on board with the Talent Factory driver of legend, as I correctly identify them as Talent Factory this time and not TF10. Apologies to the team. I think it was midway through qualifying that the realisation came upon me that it was a TF driver for Talent Factory. Legend, unfortunately, is having a qualifying ban after an incident over in Monaco, which means that he will not be taking part in this particular race event, but he did go out for a little sighter lap, just have a little feel of the circuit before retiring, and that will be the end of his qualifying run, so he'll be starting at the back down in P20. It's going to be fairly important, actually, for qualifiers to qualify well around here. It's not the easiest track to overtake at, actually, here in the Algarve, and in Portimao especially, you're going to find starting towards the back is not the ideal place to be here, so just go on board with Scyther, and now this is fairly crucial here now already for the PSR team, because, well, unfortunately for them, they had a pretty appalling Monaco. Nothing really seemed to go well for the PSR team. They had a driver getting knocked out, I believe, of Q2 as a result of rain falling at the very last minute, and then Fortunately, one of their drivers ended up getting spun out by one of the WOR drivers of Schumacher, and that ended up seeing him reduced down to 0 points as well. So as it stands, the drivers' standings, the constructors' standings, not looking promising for the current champions.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting to see, and yeah, it'll be a big one for them tonight, trying to maybe bring it back a little bit as the OTF Max for Talent Factory. They are now into the first position at 17.1, all pretty close up there at the top of the timings, but certainly good lap there for Max, and yeah, it can settle the nerves ever so slightly.
And of course, when I say the current champions, of course I mean is FRA are the current champions. I mean PSR are definitely the champions of the season last season, because they practically won everything. The only thing they didn't win actually was this tournament, and obviously on behalf the rest of the FRA team, including FRA Elite, leading the way on that charge last season. PSR will be hoping to battle and counteract the results of the Monaco Grand Prix last week, as we go back on board with Scyther as he heads through Galp, turn 15, and he's going to not use all of the track on this particular occasion, but comes across the line, goes third fastest overall behind the OP driver of Kian and behind the Talent Factory driver of Max.
Yeah, interestingly, Wilson didn't manage to get a valid lap time in, so he's backed off. He'll have to go again later on. But yeah, Wilson and Scyther both got a point to prove. Those two were both racing last week at Monaco, so they're really eager, obviously, to try and make up for that one. So yeah, no better way to do it. Scyther, he's on the front foot so far, but Wilson maybe just struggling to find his feet early on.
So if you are interested in the current standings at the moment, we've just a little bit under 11 minutes to go in this first qualifying session as it stands at the moment. The Talent Factory leading the way at the moment with 28 points, taking the victory, of course, in the last race, and then taking a very solid 9th place overall in a battle all the way to the end, but obviously getting the fastest lap for that one. It gives them the extra point. I'll put them in the mix on that particular one, as we believe is seeing one of the I believe it was one of the McLaren drivers of Wilson eventually starting a lap, but it looks like it's a non-representative 1 minute 30 in his Christmas helmet. Second place, Shazoo at the moment, with third going to VSR, fourth going to Outplayed Racing, WOR, the home team in fifth, with NRX in sixth, TVA to seventh, with Juventus in eighth, SLR in ninth, and then PSR are the only team at the moment yet to score. So would you believe the team earning all the accolades have got a bit of chasing to do? We're only on round 2.
Yeah, it's interesting. VSR Nico there as well just had a little bit of a spin. That is definitely not what they'll be looking for. And VR Lucas as well, not got a lap time in a week. Or there's been quite a lot of disruptions, you could say, to that VSR roster. A night like this could be really good to try and just get their name back, get back on the beaten track. But yeah, so far it's not looking too good for the VSR guys. Yeah,
so they'll need to just pick up the pace a little bit, to say the least, as we just have a very quick opportunity to send our regards to all of the former drivers and former managers over at Novus Racing. You may notice NVR Lucas, not VSR Lucas. NVR, the former Novus tag. And the Novus team deciding to fold as at the end of, I believe, yesterday. So I believe all our regards go to the team, of course, on what has been a fantastic uprising from the Novus team, who have really rised the ranks, and we're putting some serious challenges on the front runners. In the end, electing to back down, and a lot of their drivers moving over to VSR, one of them being Lucas, and he races immediately tonight out of the blocks alongside Nico. Going to be an interesting one here for VSR, because we've got a new dynamic coming in with a new, basically a bunch of drivers coming from a former team closing down, so it's going to be sort of interesting to see how they develop throughout the season.
Yeah, it certainly will be. It might just be a little bit of a slow start for them, but yeah, I think as the season progresses, we'll definitely get to see the best of them. As VSR Nico, I think at the moment, it's just starting his lap, so he's definitely got a little bit of improvement to do down in P14, but certainly no representative lap time yet to his name, as he's just coming through that left-hander there a little bit deep. And yeah, maybe a little bit of lap time could have been lost there. He's coming through the left-hander at turn 6 in this pretty awkward double right-hander. Turn 7 then straight into turn 8 once again, but the car can be really unsettling there, slightly missing that apex and just feathering that throttle. Make sure you're keeping it on the black stuff. That is the main thing at this point in the session. Nico, he's quick enough to be into that top 5 easily. He does not need to push it too much. Now coming in as a really long right-hander of turn 11. Make sure not to run wide through there. Nico so far, he's doing a pretty decent job. 26 seconds up on his lap time, so it will be an improvement for the Mercedes if he can just keep it within those white lines, as he's now coming at this right-hander at turn 14. That's a bit of a long one, and then it sweeps you into the final corner of turn 15 there, just making sure it doesn't get too on that throttle too early as he's now come through this final corner. It's pretty simple these days, flat out, no clams there for the Mercedes, and it's a pretty short run to the line as he comes across the line. It's a 1 minute 17.6.
And very reliably informed by our friends over in Ollie Love land, I suppose. NRC poll apparently was a 16.3 for the Novus Racing Championship. So going to be interesting to see if the drivers can sort of get anywhere near that pace. At the moment, we're nowhere near that, actually. We're nearly a second down, but I'm assuming the conditions were less than favourable. But the sun has now come out here in the Algarve. That will warm the track up suitably, and I'm sure the lap times will come in thick and fast. And one person that'll be looking to try and get a fast lap in is this guy at the moment, Nahimar, racing for the WOR team in the Alfa Romeo. Chucking the car into the left-hander at the top of the hill. Going to be an interesting set of corners here now. 13 and 14 is where you make and break, really, the laps for some people. This occasion, Nahimar actually getting it just about right, actually, as he now chucks the car in through 15 Galp. And then we'll be coming across the line and he'll be setting his initial lap time into the 1 minute 17s. He hopes he comes across the line and he gets into the 1 minute 17s, but keeps it only just in the 1 minute 17s, nearly in the 116s. But he goes fastest of anyone with that 17.006.
Yeah, not a bad lap there. Just looking on board with SLR's Elite Risks here. He's coming to the end of his lap time. No lap time to his name yet, so lap time is pretty much vital if he wants to try and ski himself through into qualifying. Two coming out of turn 13 now, just through this final long right-hander. Once again, it's not too hard in these cars, and it's a short run to the line. Let's see what lap time this Williams can set. Comes across line, it's a 1 minute 17.4, and that puts him in P9.
Yeah, so we've got everyone now on a lap in Q1. There's your lap times. The top 16 drivers currently set by just a little bit over 1 second, 1.080 seconds. So really good stuff to watch actually between those drivers. But so far, WOR, the home team, showing the fan favourites at the moment, or showing the favourite of the bunch at the moment, separated between them and the Talent Factory driver of Max by 0.136 seconds as we go on board with Lucas, looking to try and improve. That corner is going to be the critical one, isn't it? Going through the Torre VIP, actually, turn 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's actually, I can't remember for the life of me which corner that actually is what it's called. I believe it's either Torre VIP or the Craig Jones, something like that. Anyway, either way, it's going to be an interesting corner to watch, because we know, especially on the Xbox platform anyway, Cal, that particular corner is lethal. It's so oversteery on the rear.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about just kind of getting it right. You don't want to be too cautious, you lose a lap time, but sometimes if you send it in, you just get a huge whack oversteering before you know it, you're facing the wrong way. So I think we'll see a couple of mistakes there tonight, naturally, as you do. It's a pretty unforgiving track. It doesn't look like it as Lucas comes across the line there. 17.1, very good lap indeed, and any danger he might have put himself in, he certainly managed to evade that with 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, 3 drivers with a 17.1 at the moment. Good lap time, actually, that one from Lucas on his debut tonight for the VSR team. And Asicombe getting a little praise in the background there by, I believe, Liam. Oh, no, pardon me, sorry. You're not. Is it Aski? Yeah, it is Aski. Yeah, you're closing us down to Aski. All right, okay, cool. Either way, 17.375 at the moment for Asicombe. 8th place at the moment. OP looking quite strong here, actually, looking at it. 3rd and 8th, respectively. Both safely through to Q3 with lap times of that standard at the moment. But they've got both of the PSR drivers in there. They've got one of the VSR drivers at the moment. Nico down in 14th at the moment, so we'll get through to Q2. But his lap time not respective of Q3, as it looks like Shazoo have retired one of their drivers in Louis in the pit lane with a 17.2, so they feel confident. However, one of the other drivers just in the background, I believe it's one of the Red Bull drivers, possibly JTO40, is coming out, because that 1 minute 30.5 is not a respective lap time. As it stands, he'll be starting P19, but he's actually, I believe, outside of the 107% lap time, so he wouldn't even qualify with that lap time.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll try and get a valid lap time, and he's got a little bit to go. And obviously a lot of lap time to fines, and yeah, pressure's certainly mounting on him now. He's came out with enough time though that I think if he validates he can go again, so it's probably quite smart thinking there. Ghost as well in the same boat, and at 1 minute 18.4, he's a long way off trying to get into that top 15. Not as much obviously as JT behind him, but yeah, certainly a little bit of lap time to be found from him there. But other than that, car person, Finn, all very, very close, and it's pretty marginal times between everyone in that kind of section of the timings.
Let's actually have a very quick look at the drivers that are actually in the bottom 4 at the moment, excluding Legend, of course, who is serving that qualifying ban for the Talent Factory. You know, Ghost, Cole, and SLR. I mean, it's amazing to have the SLR team in the tournament. Let's be honest. It's always grand to see the Summit League Racing logo with the mountains and everything on the screen. You know, representing the team, but at the moment, they've got 1 point on board. They've got one driver down in 18th place at the moment. There are other drivers actually in the top 10. So Elite Risks is showing some pretty good pace for SLR tonight. That is going to be very crucial for them, because they want to get every point they can. And they've got one driver at least in there, whilst Ghost Colt at the moment obviously just needed to find a little bit more time. The only driver in the 1 minute 18s at the moment.
Yeah, he definitely goes. I'm going to have to try and get the finger out in this final lap, try and get himself into Q2 at least. I think Q1's maybe always a little bit disappointing for any team, any driver. So yeah, he'll certainly be looking to improve. But I have to agree with you, SLR done a good job last week as well. They're getting a point, they're not here to mess around. And I think it's going to be probably similar tonight. Elite Risks is looking really quick in P10. I think he's out on track at the moment as well, so he'll be looking to improve. And yeah, SLR's out there, cheeky little force to be reckoned with this season.
Finn looking strong though for NRX in the Aston Martin, number 25, going a tenth and a half faster in the first sector. Now that obviously could be a combination of him finding the pace as well as the track warming up. The Evolution is quite strong, throwing the car actually into turn 8, and this is the corner where we're seeing some issues, which I've now reliably found out is actually called Samsung. I don't know how, but there we go. Either way, it's going through now at the Craig Jones corner into the top of the Portimao Hill. And with Scyther retiring as well as Wilson, so both of the McLarens out in 5th and 7th. They're happy with their lap times. Another 10th found for NRX Finn, who are again looking to try and get through to Q2. At the moment, he will be knocked out, and he'll be knocked out by not much more than 26 thousandths of a second. So every thousandth will count. At the moment, he's found 2.5. He'll be hoping to keep this lap coming around now as it comes around that final corner, mounts a lot of the curb, and the curb really reverberating the suspension beyond its limits. But the Aston Martin will come across the line and will go to 14th fastest. So he does manage to find the time, but the only issue is that he's got a bunch of drivers who are looking mighty quick. Nico, one of them at the moment, 2.5 tenths up.
Yeah, Nico will be a pretty tidy lap from him so far, but he absolutely needed it now coming through that penultimate corner, and he's got not much more to do through this long right-hander now, but all the hard work's been done, and an improvement is virtually vital for Nico now if he wants to make sure he is through the qualifying too, and I think that will be the case. And there you have it, the 17.249, that puts him in P6.
Yeah, good lap. Here comes Carperson then for WOR, looking to try and improve if he can. 17.80 respects on this particular occasion. 17.8 is what he's got, so it clearly was an outlap on that particular occasion. As Ghost Cole also wasn't able to improve. Looks like he had a spin, looks like in the second sector on that particular occasion. No improvement from 18th and 19th. They will have another go. Tidjin will come across the line then. That's for Juventus Racing, looking to get both drivers through to Q2 if they can. And he'll come across the line now, and he will improve, but will only stay 17th fastest.
Yeah, a lot of lap times coming in, but not a lot of improvements to these bottom 4 now. They're certainly going to be looking for any sort of improvement that they can. Carperson, I think, is maybe a 10th up now as he's just coming through the middle sector, coming into this double right-hander of turn 7 and 8. We talked about the trickiness of turn 8. How can Carperson handle it? And do you know what? He's done pretty good through there, just failing that throttle back on. He's still got half a lap to go, but do you know what? Mile for mile is looking pretty good.
Yeah, and Jensen for Shizu came across the line and was actually 3.5 tenths up on that last lap as Gianfrancesco for Juventus having a big tank slapper and well caught going through turn 8, and the PlayStation driver doesn't look like he's going to be improving anytime soon on this occasion. We'll see a sector 2 split just as he comes up off of the top of Portimao corner, and he is 4.5 tenths down, so I think that will be it for that one. SLR Elite Risks also safely through at the moment. NRX Finn leaves it. JTO 40 won't be improving, nor will Tidjin. Carperson also on a lap time as well. He's actually 3.5 tenths up in the third sector. Here he comes and across the line. He does knock out NRX Finn and goes 13th fastest as Ghost Cole can only get 16th fastest as he gets a nice toe off of his teammate on that last particular occasion, but Cole cannot improve and he's knocked out by 300ths of a second.
I'll tell you, Jensen, we're very happy with that. P15 he's just scraped through. So he'll be pretty, be counting his blessings, I think, after that session that he's made it through by the skin of his teeth. But it doesn't really matter how you make it, as long as you do make it, I think, for his case. So, yeah, I'm sure he'll be happy with that final outcome.
Yeah, 0.13 seconds separating 15th, the last position to qualify, and 19th out who've been knocked out. Those been knocked out, SLR have lost a driver in Ghost Cole, NRX have lost Finn, TV8 have lost JTO 40, and Tidjin has been lost, and that's representative for the Juventus team. And of course, Legend has not qualified in this after serving his qualifying ban for Monaco. But that will be it for Q1, and on this particular occasion, looking very strong indeed. Both Shizu drivers are through. One of the Juventus drivers is through. WOR have got both of their drivers through as well. One of them on 13th place with Carperson at the very last second, setting the same lap time as Francesco for Juventus, but his teammate Neheimar, however you want to pronounce it, either way, he's leading the way, 17-0. We're back in just a few short moments for this continued coverage of round 2 here in Portimao. Really interesting stuff then coming out of that one. So Nahimar leading the way then from TF Max, and then OP Kian rounding out the top three. But towards the back, unfortunate scenario then. Williams and Ghost Colt with SLR being knocked out. Finn is out, JTO40 out, Tidgeon out, and Legend not scoring a lap time, of course, after what was a tumultuous Monaco Grand Prix. We're heading through into Q2 then. Very, very interesting to say the least. Looking through it now, we've lost a bunch of drivers from different teams. So certain drivers going to be at disadvantage. No towing.
Yeah, absolutely. No one team had two drivers knocked out there, all drivers from different teams. So certainly does spice up these remaining two sections. And I think it was all very, very close. And at bottom end of the table, I say the bottom end, I think the full end of the lap times are very minimal margins. And I think that'll probably be the continuous trend throughout this session and qualifying three. So yeah, every little corner matters, every little 10th matters, because I think that was shown in its best a couple of moments ago.
Little bit of homework for you then on this one, Callum. The question I've got for you here is towing actually allowed? And that's the debate that's happening in the chat at the moment. FR8 Arch leading the way at the moment with that question of, is towing actually allowed in this league? So I'll let you do your homework to see if that is possible, because apparently, according to this, it might not be, and that might be SLR in trouble if that's the case. Either way, we'll see later down the line, and of course you can keep an eye out and see what the result of that one is by just looking at our Twitter at WOR League _. Keep an eye out on that one. We have 14 minutes to go in this Q2 session, and drivers immediately leaving the blocks at the moment. Both of the Alpines, Shazoo, are very keen to get out, aren't they?
Yeah, they certainly are. They're trying to make their mark. They're not going to make any mistake for that last one. I think it was Jensen at the end of that one, just about making it through. So he's making no mistake. He's making sure he can get a good start for the session and not try and put himself in that position again. And obviously, top 10 that make it through this time. So you certainly need to be on your ball if you want to try and make it through into qualifying three.
Anyway, we'll keep an eye out again further on the rule about towing, and I'm sure we'll get full clarification at some point on that one. Either way, Shazoo Louis coming across into the Samsung corner of turn 8. This is again one of the hot spots we're expecting to be potentially where we see a bunch of mistakes happen, because grip levels are particularly questionable in around that corner, probably because of the off-camber nature of the corner going, of course, uphill midway through the corner. The cars just don't like not being in a straight line, let's be honest, as he's coming now into the left-hander at turn 13, into Sagri in turn 14. And it will be Shazoo Louis who starts, who actually gets a track invalidation. Whether his lap time will be invalidated on this particular occasion, I'm not sure. We'll see. Either way, the Renault-powered car now heading down the straight, and he'll be starting his first lap time in this Q2 session. Jensen just tucking in behind him as well, as he's now going down the straight. And his lap will validate on this particular occasion, of course, and he invalidates in this particular lap as he chucks it into turn 1. The car actually looking pretty stable. He has got a Mercedes in the way. That's a Mercedes, one of the VSR drivers, maybe Lucas potentially. We'll see as he comes now into the left-hander. Lucas does get out of the way, but doesn't track extend coming up of the hill, going through turn 4. And then into turn 5, the Torre VIP. Want to try and keep that car as close as you possibly can to the curb. Your apex is so early at that corner as he heads through turn 6 and chucks it through turn 7. A lot of people taking the wider exit. Not Louis, though, on this occasion. And then turn 8. This is where everything gets a little bit heated for some. Not for Louis again, though. Keeping it nice and tidy, actually, is the Alpine as he'll head through then into turn 9. And then into turn 10, the Portimao hill at the top. Well, obviously the wind is at his most paramount. We may see a few people struggling around that corner, but again, not Louis, looking actually pretty stable at the moment for the Shazoo team as he chucks the car through into turn 13, into turn 14 at Sagri, and the Renault-powered engine looking very strong indeed, actually, going across here, and he gets a little bit of a tank slapper, though, and actually well caught as he heads through turn 15 at Galp. This is where he might lose a little bit of time, because, of course, if you lose all your time through there, if you make a mistake, 18-1 set by car person. Louis comes across the line, 17-3.
Very nice lap there from Louis' teammate as well. Let's just see what's happened to him. But I think he's had a couple of mishaps. He's got no front wing, so he's certainly not going to be making any improvements on that lap time. As Stokey comes across the line, he goes second place. He's 3/10 off that provisional lap time set by Louis there. So as it stands, Louis is certainly the man to beat. But as I say, that Seidler comes across in a 17th flat. Great lap time there from the PSR man.
Yeah, looking fairly strong there from the PSR man, and the American looking mighty quick, but TF Max going even quicker, and first driver into the 16s this race weekend now. TF Max with a 1 minute 16.963, which is on board with Francesco at the moment as he comes through turn 8. He's been struggling at this particular corner of turn 8, goes for the early apex, and very hesitant to get on the throttle is the Juventus driver. He's struggling out there at the moment. Purple sector 2 at the moment for PSR Wilson. My screen does confirm it as well that he has gone a very slight smidge faster than TF Max in the second sector. But Nehemar goes across the line for WOR, also in the 1 minute 16.9s, looking fairly good here, as my timing screen has gone completely balk. There we go, we're back up and running. No, apparently Wilson's actually on an out lap according to my screen here. We'll see anyways. He comes across the line now, Wilson, and he will be setting a 1 minute 24.597. So yeah, there we are. We are back up and running now, I think, on that one. Very strong stuff, though, immediately out of the blocks. Very close, though, between the top three.
Yep, it certainly is. Just looking at NVR Lucas at the moment, obviously the VSR driver. These days he's looking to try and set his first lap time of qualifying, so coming around turn 14 now, getting that car back on the throttle for now what is virtually the last corner, but not much work to do now. Just this long right-hander, making sure you don't get any snaps over steer, which he's managed to avoid pretty nicely. I'm going to say he's keeping it nice and tight, but he's mugged me right off there and he's went flying off into the pit lane.
Just having a look here on PSR Wilson as he's now heading through Samsung. Want to keep it nice and tidy if he can. Oh, he's absolutely nailed turn 8 going uphill here. And looking fairly strong indeed is that McLaren and the PSR team after what was a really poor Monaco Grand Prix, and actually what has been a really poor sort of last week of racing in the esports world. They've been really struggling out there at the moment with collisions involving their own teammates and not really finding the pace where they really could have had it, but now at the moment finding their pace with Scyther. The question is where Wilson's going to be here, as he's now heading around turn 14. Looks like he's missed his apex ever so slightly, but keeps the car running in a legal manner, not going off of the circuit. Turn 15 at Galp, then up the hill and across the start finishing line, as Wilson will come across the line with a 1 minute 17.1, missing out on pole by just a little bit under 0.2 of a second, but again really close stuff now between the top four, TF, WOR and 2 PSR.
Just looking at the moment, Francesco coming around that final corner and coming across the line. 1 minute 36 was his current lap time, but as he comes across the line, it's now 1 minute 18 flat. Not too bad in the end there, but certainly I think a lot of lap time to be found for the last man.
Outplayed Racing also looking fairly sharp at the moment. He's now heading through the third sector is Kian at the moment, looking really cool actually in that Alpha Tauri with that lap time he set through in Q1. He managed to get third overall, so Outplayed Racing are definitely in the mix tonight as they then head through turn 15 does Kian, and they want to try and keep the car as close as he can to the inside line. He does exactly that, doesn't use any of the road as he comes across the line and goes P5 with a 17.2, keeping in touching distance with PSR. And Asicombe also looking to try and improve as well. He actually goes fastest in the second sector of anyone so far as he now chucks the car into turn number 13 and then heads into Sagri turn 14 and actually goes for the wider entry, so he'll have a later apex, and he comes across into that corner, actually absolutely nails it as he then comes into turn 15. Might be competitive with the likes of Elite Risks potentially as he comes across the line now. 17.6 is what we're looking for, comes across the line. Oh, make that 17.0. Asicombe looking massive at the moment.
Yeah, great lap times from the pair of the Alpha Tauris here. I'm sure they'll be pretty pleased with how that one panned out. So yeah, good stuff from the two of them there. It was a 17 flat, sorry, and a 17.2 respectively. So not much in between the two teammates, and yeah, they've certainly put themselves in healthy positions. There
are 3 drivers remaining yet to set a lap time at the moment. Jensen in 13th with both of the VSR drivers, Nico and Lucas, yet to set a lap time. Nico still hasn't left the pit lane at the moment, so nothing on the board for him as it stands, but the former Novus driver Lucas looking to get a lap time on board now with Lucas. He'll be looking to try and get something on the board for VSR. Let's see where he is going to be comparatively, as it looks to me as if the clouds are starting to build again over Portugal, and that's only going to hamper the performance of the circuit.
Yeah, certainly. Well, that's not going to be ideal for these guys. So if rain is coming, they will know about it. There'll be no shock to them. So they will be coming out anytime soon. But by the looks of things, it doesn't look too damp, but certainly could be something that could be affecting things later on in the sessions as Lucas coming into that left-hander there, doing nicely done into third gear, gets the car rotated nicely and back on the power there for now to the slight left kink of turn 6 now through double right-hander of 7 and 8 as Louis goes fast at 16.9, so that's a new benchmark for all of these drivers to set in. Via Lucas, he'll be looking at that lap with envy because he's still got quite a lot of work to do down in P15.
I'm back on board with them with Lucas as he's now chucking the car through turn number 12 at the moment, or 11 rather, sorry, as he heads through 12 here and then into 13, and actually going a tenth faster than Louis on this particular occasion, looking really sharp in the second sector. The question is he able to keep up with that pace through the third sector? Because if you've got the higher downforce setup on, you are going to end up seeing a few difficulties. Well, the number 21 going down the straight here as Elite Risks has actually gone second fastest overall, and that's for SLR, looking really sharp, 69 for SLR. Lucas comes across the line. Oh, it's another 16.9 on the case here with Lucas, and putting himself within 15 thousandths of a second of Louis. So quick out there at the moment, and the drivers are finding the pace out there. Here's another driver that was a bit weird that he's down in 12th at the moment, NRX Rusty. The driver in form at the moment for NRX, and the driver in form across the esports world. 12th fastest with an 18.0. He's not finding this track particularly comfortable.
No, obviously not. Just another thing I'd like to point out is how incredibly close this field is at the moment. We've got, I think it's PSR Wilson in P8. He is less than 2 tenths off first place at the moment. So there's 2 tenths separating first down to 8th. It's incredible stuff at a track like this, and yeah, it's really just showing every little helps at this track. And Rusty, a man, he just needs a couple tenths. If on a good lap he can do it, and he will be easily within that kind of top 10 area. Obviously setting 18 flat at the moment, but we all know he is capable of much better than that.
Yeah, the number 30 Aston Martin is now 1.1 seconds down on his fastest lap. He knows he's got a little bit more time to find out there at the moment, but as it stands, the top 5 are separated by 62 thousandths of a second. So we've got a spinning Red Bull. I believe that might be Stokey, struggling a little bit in that heading through turn 2 by the looks of things. But Rusty 1.1 seconds down, so clearly not a lap that you would typically see from him. I think there's expectations of more laps coming in, or more at least faster laps coming in from Rusty as he heads through into turn number 8 at Samsung. And again, a little bit looks like he's understeering a bit, actually. I'm wondering if there's a setup problem at the moment for the NRX driver. I think NRX in general don't seem to be comfortable around Portimao either, so they could be finding their Achilles heel at the moment as he goes through the second sector, and he's 5 and nearly 6 tenths up actually in the second sector. So the time's there, he's finding it. It's just a matter of where is he going to put the car. We've got a bunch of people in the 16.9s. Well, that Aston Martin will be looking to at least get into the 16.8s if he wants to really set the precedent, and that is going to be the question on his case here. Can he get into the 16.8s as the Aston Martin will head now down the main straight and come across the line right now, and it will be another driver with a 1 minute 16.9. It's now 6 drivers with a 16.9. This guy right bang in the middle. Can you believe a driver 45 thousandths of a second away from first place is in 4th?
Yeah, unbelievable stuff all over the field at the moment. A great lap there from Rusty. I'm sure he'll be pleased with that nonetheless. Just looking at the car person at the moment down in P14, a lot of improvement as he did from his current lap time. And 18.1 is a lap time to his name, but we need at least another second and a bit from that if he wants to see himself through into qualifying 3 coming through the right hand of the turn 11. Using a little bit of track on the outside, definitely could have pushed it maybe a little bit more there. He's 5.5 tenths up. It's a good lap, but definitely we need a little bit more from Alfa Romeo here. Coming in the left hand of the turn 13, he gets over to that left hand side for the right hand of the turn 14 now. Coming oily on the throttle up into 5th gear, using the most of that short shifting now, and that's all the hard work done. It's foot flat to the floor through turn 15. He goes now, getting on that little bit of the car, but he's now on the back straight. Now he comes across line. What lap time is it for Alfa Romeo? And it's only good enough for P11. It's a 17.5.
Yeah, not looking sharp at the moment, but one thing that is looking sharp is those lap times in the top 10. Can you believe, as it stands at the moment, PSR are at risk of being knocked out of qualifying only by 0.194 seconds, less than 2 tenths of a second separating first from 10th. And in that situation, PSR need to find every thousandth they can because they're at risk of being knocked out here. If FRA Stokey, and of course, don't forget, VSR Nico. We've got one of the VSR drivers yet to set a lap of retrospective lap time that is actually more akin to what we see from VSR. Shazua in the same position as well. Jensen, we're expecting a better lap time coming in from him as well. So there's a real possibility. But as it stands, at least, anyway, both PSR drivers could be knocked out of Q2 by less than 2 tenths.
Yeah, Jensen there once again just invalidated his lap times. Is certainly not what he would be wanting for his session's sake. You're going to have to try and back off, save the ERS, and go again for one last time in this session. So the pressure is certainly mounting out for this Shazoo driver now, and as it stands, things aren't looking too good.
Yeah, well, Outplayed Racing Kian has just had a spin going through turn 14, and I'm not sure what the rules are to resetting on circuit, but he's just been caught out doing it. So Outplayed Racing could be in trouble if there is a rule against that one anyway, to say the least, as we're just keeping an eye out on what's happening around the field at the moment. So 11th through 15th at the moment are well off of the pace as Lucas has retired from the session, so no more inputs coming in from one of the VSR drivers. The other driver, though, needs to set a lap time, and fast here, because he's at risk of being knocked out without setting a lap time at all in Q2. And so far is Sector 2 looking fairly strong as he's now heading through that final corner. Checkered flag not out yet, by the way, but we're starting to see retirements coming with a little bit of over a minute to go in this session as he now heads down that right-hander, and the Mercedes will be hoping, if he possibly can, to try and get himself in the mix and towards the front as he comes across the line. And it's only 11th fastest for VSR Nico, and that may be just a testament to perhaps the devolution happening on circuit at the moment. Either way, he's knocked out of qualifying.
Yeah, he certainly is another man that might be knocked out. Is F.A. Stokey. Let's see what he can do here now, coming around this final corner. Currently set at 17.6, it's a 17.1 that's needed to see if he can get through in this next session. And he's went fastest at a 16.8 out of nowhere. F.A. Stokey, he has set the timing lines to a light. And there you have it. He currently goes quickest.
Yeah, absolutely what TV8 needed, to say the least. One of their drivers got knocked out earlier on, and now one has gone fastest with a 16.8. So perhaps the devolution is not as strong as we may hope. But either way, but drivers looking to try and improve, and certainly one of those drivers, PSR Wilson, as it stands, knocked out with a 17.1 around this circuit. It's unheard of, really, to say the least, as the clouds are really starting to gather, and I'm questioning whether we're going to be seeing some rain soon here. Maybe Q3 we're going to see some rain. We'll have to see. The checkered flag is now out. No further improvements will be coming in if you have finished your lap. Here comes one of the WOR drivers. I believe it's Nahima, will come across the line with 16.9 is what he set. 16.7 is what he'll have on this particular occasion. Here comes the lap times now really starting to improve. Max won't improve, nor will Stokey on this occasion. As it stands, one of the PSR drivers will be knocked out. PSR Nico will be out. Wilson comes across the line now, and it'll be a 17.0. Only goes 9th fastest of anyone so far. And now Outplayed Racing is potentially at risk of being knocked out. No, never mind. Scyther is knocked out of qualifying. He's invalidated on his lap, and he will be knocked out by 37 thousandths of a second. Jensen won't improve as he spins going through turn 15, and that will be it for qualifying. PSR have lost a driver, and would you believe it's probably one of the fastest drivers in their team at the moment. Scyther out, he starts 11th. Stokey comes across the line, and he does improve and goes to 3rd fastest. Oh, pardon me, sorry, I think that was Elite Risks. He's come across the line for SLR. He goes 2nd fastest. SLR looking mighty quick with their driver, but once again, WR Nahima leading the way for the WR PlayStation team.
Wow, what a session that was. A tiny little margins throughout. 1st to 11th, it's covered by such a tiny little margin. And yes, Scyther will be feeling that one such a way to lose out of qualifying 3, and it's definitely a sore one to take. VSR Nico as well, he'll be disappointed that he's not managed to make it through into Q3 as well. So yeah, as far as qualifying 2 goes, that is certainly up there with one of the best.
Well, there we go then. Very, very interesting stuff. Let's take a very quick look before we go to the break for Q2 and the end of Q2. WR Nahima looking very strong indeed. 16.792 and 44 thousandths of a second separating him from SLR Elite Risks. Looking good are the SLR team with him. And then FRA Stokey, the former FRA driver, now racing for TV8. 3rd overall, looking good, and TV8 needed that performance from him as well at the last second. Shazoo Louis, 4th overall. His teammate knocked out with Lucas in 5th for VSR. TF Max as well. Talent Factory have got a driver through into Q3 with the other one knocked out in Q1, of course, not taking part in qualifying after being banned. And RX Rusty only 7th overall for the Aston Martin, with both of the AlphaTauris 8th and 10th. The McLaren of PSR Wilson 9th, and their driver Wilson, Scyther, knocked out in P11. Nico, Carperson, Francesco and Jensen are the drivers knocked out. We're back in a very short moment for the continued coverage of this race. It's raining in Portugal as we come through to Q3, and right now we are going to be in for what is going to be, I think, a very tumultuous Q3, because all of the drivers were looking so sharp for what was going to be a very interesting dry event has now turned out to be actually now intermediates, to say the least. There's no opportunity for the drivers to get out there and immediately get a dry tyre, or get a dry lap in at the last second. So we are going to be in what I think could potentially be a really mixed bag for pole. Anybody could be getting this one if Q2 has got anything to go about it. Now at the wet.
Yeah, it's certainly a spanner into the works, and how tight that last qualifying session is, and it might just the complete opposite now. How many people have practiced for the wet? Well, we're all going to find out now, aren't we? We've got 11 minutes to see who can go the quickest. It might even get drier as well. It might get wet again. I know this could be the best time to set a lap, or it might be the worst, but by the looks of things, everyone's getting it there, everyone's eager to see what the track conditions are like, and I think we're in for a pretty interesting next 11 minutes.
Yes, Elite Risks then the first driver to set out there for SLR in the Williams, and it will be an intermediate tyre that's on the car now, very clearly intermediate as well. There's puddles all around the circuit, and again understeering going through turn 7 into turn 8. That rear may step out, but he keeps it careful on the accelerator pedal. Batunde Aramaya, thank you very much for the confirmation. It's Nehemiah for the WOR driver, getting pole position on the last couple of qualifying sessions. Now we're on to the final queue, and at the moment he is at risk of potentially not taking that one now with this rain falling on the ground. We'll see how he performs, let's say, in these conditions, and what is best described as changeable, because of course I'm looking at the tyres. There's not that much spray being kicked up here, and if the rain remains light enough, these intermediate tyres could shift enough water that dry tyres may end up becoming the faster tyre overall, because it is quite warm at the moment, 28 degrees on the circuit at the moment.
Yeah, it's always a possibility. It's something just keep an eye on as this session progresses, but the rain is still certainly falling. I think the way the game works, that's normally always a telltale sign that the track is going to be pretty wet, but it'll be interesting to see anyway. If the rain does stop, it's always a possibility for these guys to go back on to the dry tyres. But yeah, early stages does suggest it's going to be intermediates, and these guys, I think for the first maybe a lap or two, will just be trying to feel the track out and kind of test the limits and see where everything is really at.
Here comes then the Williams as he heads through into turn 5. Lap times are now going to be tumbling, of course, with the what potentially could turn into interchangeable wet conditions as the spray now starting to pick up ever so slightly on the fronts here. Chucks the Williams through then into turn number 8, and he misses his apex as a result of mounting the curb, so he's going to have to take it very gingerly coming out the corner. That rear really wanting to step out here. That is going to be a crucial corner for these laps here.
Yeah, it certainly will be. It's no easy corner on the dry, never mind in the wet, so it's definitely going to be a huge challenge for these guys tonight, and it's just going to see how everyone can approach differently, how cautious they're going to be able to take it, and I think you're right, that will definitely be a crucial corner within this session.
That Williams then heading through turn 15 into Galp then. Will the Williams try and hold on if he can? Here's then turn 15 at Galp. He's going to be very careful of that rear end, because of course with the dry setup on, if anyone's gone for the lower downforce setup, that could be a real killer for the car. Anyway, there goes the first lap time. It's a 23.8 for the SLR driver. It's going to be the WOR Nehemiah coming across the line with a 23.4. Thank you very much again to the people correcting me on that one, as we do see some other people coming across the line, as Rusty has gone wide coming out the final corner, and I'm wondering if that 24.5 won't be valid as a result of that one. Either way, he's 5th overall, slowest lap time of anyone so far. Stokey goes 5th fastest with a 24.2, and then Outplayed Racing's Kian goes with a 24.2 as well, as PSR Wilson with a 24.1, and we're still waiting on one driver, and that's actually the Talent Factory Max, who want to come across the line. Will he go fastest of anyone? He won't. He goes 3rd fastest though, and actually just going 63 thousandths of a second, 53 thousandths of a second slower than Asicombe at the moment for Outplayed Racing. So far, PlayStation.
Yeah, Nehemiah is looking really good as well, isn't he? At the front, he's been looking pretty dominant in the dry and in the wet as well. A bit more of a league in the zone. I think the skill gap opens slightly more. It just allows for a little bit more kind of time to be found and lost, and Nehemiah has done a great job at finding that one. Asicombe on P2, he's keeping himself honest, and Max as well on P3 and set some pretty good lap times as well. So yep, still 7 minutes to go, and I imagine we've still got a lot of lap times to go as well.
Yeah, I've got a few more lap times certainly coming in at the moment as the rain's starting to fall. I must admit, a little bit heavier now, and as a result now you can see the spray really starting to kick off now, and that may not necessarily be a bad thing. The intermediate tyres have got this sort of window, haven't they, this pocket where the conditions are a bit too wet and then they're a bit too dry. So if you're in that pocket, which could be around about now, these lap times could get that little bit faster. Not for Rusty though, 10th fastest overall at the moment. And the driver currently in form. Again, he's really struggling. I don't know if Portugal seems to be his Achilles heel, and seems to be NRX's Achilles heel at the moment.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange track. Portugal. It's a little bit different to what you're used to across the calendar, and it certainly can be some drivers' Achilles heel, and I think maybe what we could be seeing tonight with Rusty, or maybe not, maybe we'll see him flourish within the next couple of minutes, but We'll never really know. I think a wet track as well always throws a spanner in the works, and always just makes it a little bit more difficult for some of these guys. So yeah, certainly it will be something to keep an eye on. Just looking at Nihima now, coming on his lap. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. As he's coming out at double right-hander, coming out really, really tricky turn 8, and he's done a very, very good job. He's just keeping it nice and smooth. He's not pushing that car too much, and he is just trying his best to keep it on black stuff, and that is pretty much the way to go around this track. 4th gear through here, just feathering that foot up into 5th, really giving him that little bit of extra traction to try and guide him through that left-hander. A little bit of a lift off for the confidence to make sure he doesn't validate, and he's trying to get on the brakes here. The car a little bit unsettled as he went on the braking there, but yep, still on the track, still a valid lap, and it's still looking pretty good for the Alfa Romeo. Coming into turn 14 now, up to 5th gear very early. Williams getting out the way very nicely for him as well now, as he's coming through that final corner. It's a much trickier corner in the wet though. He's having to lift off ever so slightly, just keeping it in 7th gear though, just to make sure, and he's not happy with that lap time as he's diving off into the pit lane.
Yeah, 2.5 tenths down unfortunately in the second sector, which sees that lap over and done with. Kean looking to try and improve though if he can, as he's now heading around that right-hander, and he's got his teammate just behind as well, so maybe a slight toe, nothing too major though, as he then heads down the straight here. We'll see if he dives into the pit lane. His teammate Asicombe currently in second. The update looks like Kean is coming in to the pit lane as well, and they've got FRA Stokey representing TV8 as the team looking really sharp. The guy putting in the team putting in so much investment into their first season, RTV8. They're looking quite sharp with the amount of drivers they've got coming on board here, and they'll be looking to get Stokey towards the front if they can to really show off their name. Only 7th fastest so far with a 24.0, 10th and a half up though on that particular occasion. A bunch of drivers all though electing to come in and say that is enough on this particular occasion. One driver deciding against that one though. A couple of drivers actually against the run of play. NRX Rusty and PSR Wilson both out on a lap at the moment.
Yep, I just want to quickly take us back to a couple sessions ago with a couple, I say couple sessions ago, qualifying one, and there was the incident with the slipstreaming. Slipstreaming is banned in World, and it does result in a qualifying ban if you are caught doing it. So yeah, there you go. For anyone still wondering, that is the kind of outcome for it all.
Oh, appreciate that one. Thank you for that one, Professor. I'd had absolutely no idea, actually, on that particular rule, I must admit. So I do appreciate your homework on that one. I was literally joking when I said it's your homework, by the way. I don't demand work, but I do appreciate you taking the time to have a look on that one. So thank you for that one. That's Rusty really struggling on that rear end going through turn 2. He is really not confident out there. I don't know if it's an NRX issue, struggling maybe, potentially, with the setup, but he's just correcting so many times out there at the moment, and I think this bearing in mind he's using a dry setup potentially as well, so this is just adding to the problems. A missed apex by a mile at turn 5. They're really struggling out there at the NRX team, and I think Nexus will be looking to take some lessons from this one.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a track that's really limited with the grip you get in the dry, so I think when you've got a dry setup on in the wet, it's just not a good recipe, and I think that is kind of what we're seeing here with Rusty. He's just really struggling. He's got no confidence in the car. He's not really managing to hit the apexes, and when he does, he's just struggling to get on the throttle. He's just having a little bit of a tough time at the moment. Majority, he's still done a good job. I think the dry pace is really there, and if he does still qualify P9, P10, I think he's certainly still a threat for this race. So yeah, don't just count him out just yet.
3 minutes to go then in this session, and so far as it stands, conditions still looking unfavourable towards dry tyres here, as Elite Risks looks to have another go on this particular one, as NRX Rusty's unfortunately invalidated his lap at turn 13, so he'll have another go on this one. 24.5 is what he's got, 24.7 is what he's set, and he's invalidated, actually it looks like to me, at turn 15, which means he's invalidated this and next lap, so that will be a very, very last-ditch attempt here for NRX Rusty, who's obviously fueled the car enough. He's going to use this opportunity to regain the charge in the batteries and then have another go on the final lap for Rusty to try and at least get above P10 if he can, as we've got Outplayed Racing's Kian in the Alpha Tauri coming across in the final corner, and again AlphaTauri losing the rev so slightly, people using as much road as they can now, unlike the last time in the dry. They wants to keep it as close to the inside as he can. It's a 24.2 for him at the moment, and looking to try and get above PSR Wilson. Again, PSR, who you'd expect towards the front at the moment, are in the midfield with 8th and 11th respectively as it stands. PSR, again, not finding confidence out there. They're out of form.
Yeah, they are ever so slightly. It was a shame they lost sight on that last session, and then now the lone driver, Wilson, he's just not having a great time of it at the moment, and I think that rain has maybe caught a couple of people out, not in terms of the surprise to see, but maybe just haven't practiced as much as they maybe should have, and it does definitely start to show maybe people that did a little bit more practice in the wet, or just naturally a little bit quicker in the wet, because we've started to see a little bit more field spread now. You've seen how close it was in the dry and qualifying too, but now you look at it now, it's all opened up a little bit more, and yeah, it does start to show a little bit.
Here we are then as we go on board with FRA Stokey. Of course, now TV8 Valo will be looking for a little bit more than just 7th, I think, because they know they've got the pace to be towards the front. Now, of course, very close qualifying too, of course. 6 drivers all within the same 10th of each other. So, you know, when you include the wet in there, that is going to make or break a few people's laps anyway. We know that one for much. Asicombe and Max are the people sort of gaining massively. But so far, it is all hell breaking loose for WOR, with Nehemiah looking very sharp at the moment towards the front with that 23.485. He's just about to start another go here as Max comes across the line, and he'll be looking to have another go himself, actually. 3 seconds down on his fastest lap at the moment. Nehemiah was 4 seconds down on that one, so obviously a slow lap as a bunch of drivers all having another go on this one. We'll be keeping an firm eye at the moment on the McLaren of PSR Wilson, who will be, I think, the driver who will be setting his first final lap, as he's now hitting the apex perfectly at Torrey Vape turn number 5.
Yeah, certainly is. He's a little bit wiggly on that throttle, isn't he? Is that McLaren? He's now coming into turn 7 and turn 8, probably the 2 hardest corners to nail on this track. He's 4th gear there, but you see how cautious he is. He's aware how tricky that corner is there, and I think that was pretty evident in just that throttle application, but he survived it, and that is certainly the main thing for him there. Now, getting that car over at the left-hand side, trying to open up the right-hander at turn 11 on the throttle early as you can. 5th gear, he's got the throttle there about 4 tenths down. It says at the top right there. I'm not too sure if this is just a bad lap from Wilson, or maybe we have seen the best of the track conditions, and most drivers may struggle to improve. So this could be a sign of things to come, coming through this penultimate corner now with turn 14. A little bit wiggly there, and he's well off. He's nearly hitting the advertising board there into the gravel, and yeah, certainly not going to be any improvement there from Wilson.
And that will be it for PSR as well in that situation, as he no doubt will dive into the pits and call it quits. It's not happening on this particular occasion, and PSR will be in the midfield for the start of this race here. Nehemiah will not improve either, because he's invalidated his lap time, as Asicombe is really struggling with rear end grip at the moment through the 3rd sector. TF Max will not improve either, and he'll miss out on second by 53 thousandths of a second to Asicombe, who we're on board with at the moment. His sector 2 is not looking promising either. One of the Mercedes, I think it's Lucas, who's going to be coming across the line. In fact, he's actually binned it coming out of the final corner, so that will be it. Stokey also binning it as well for TV8, and that will be his lap over and done with as well. The conditions are unfavourable, to say the least, and that will be it for what has been a very tumultuous qualifying. Nehemiah takes a clean sweep. Nehemiah taking a clean sweep for WOR. They're on pole.
Yeah, Nehemiah has been dominant since qualifying 1, and in the wet that didn't freeze him either, and yeah, it's definitely a deserved pole position there. That wet in qualifying 3, I think, has shuffled the order out a little bit as well. A few drivers maybe underperforming slightly, but in the end, I think Nehemiah, fantastic performance, and yeah, this tees up what should be a pretty impressive race.
Nehemiah from the short trip from Spain just across the border to Portugal, taking pole position for WOR. I'll be happy with that one. Asicombe finishing in 2nd with TF Max, and the Team Talent Factory at least getting a driver through to Q3 and into the top 3 on the 2nd row with Max, and then Lucas sharing that position. Then Elite Riss, Louis, Stokey, Wilson, Kean, and Rusty rounding out the top 10. Rusty really off the pace, over a second separating him from pole. We'll be here for our continued coverage. The race is coming up in just a few short moments. Good evening then, ladies and gentlemen across the world. Welcome aboard to Portugal and the WOR Legacy Division. This is Season 2. Hope you are having a very good evening for what is going to be an intense race around the Algarve. Welcome to Portimao. So it's round number 2 of Season 2, of course, of WOR. It's been a fascinating qualifying event around here. The 2.891 miles of circuits and 15 turns, 4.6 kilometers with 2 DRS zones. The drivers had to encounter some real difficult conditions in Q3. We had some intermediate conditions coming out of nowhere, but we do expect the hotspots for racing to be at turn 1, and of course don't forget turns 10 through 13. It's going to be a tumultuous time through there for those drivers. It is myself, Jotto, once again alongside the OG KLMG himself. What an interesting qualifying event, and it's a real mixed bag to say the least.
Yep, good evening everyone. It certainly was a mixed bag of qualifying there. Some will be happier and others with that outcome. I think the main shock you could probably say is maybe Scyther being knocked out in qualifying, so he starts down in P11. That's a good one to look out for. We know how aggressive he can be when he's going to try and make his way through the pack. Portimao, it's not easiest track. The easiest track, I should say, for overtaking, as you mentioned. Probably turn 1's going to be your biggest one, that long DRS straight, and you could probably get to turn 1 without ease. But DRS trains might be his kind of Achilles heel tonight for Scyther and many other drivers trying to make any sort of overtakes.
Oh, excuse me, come here, good timing. I was just taking a sip of water. Very, very interesting statistic here for you, though. Let's take a look at that top 10. What do you see in that top 10? Because I see every single team, apart from Outplayed Racing, managing to get through to Q3, which means we have got a very, very mixed bag ahead of us here. So Nehemiah leading the lead. Oh, I'll get there in the end. Nehemiah leading the end for WOR with Alfa Romeo. Then Asicom is sharing the front row with him in second for the Outplayed Racing team. Then you've got the Talent Factory with Max in third, and then you've got not Novus Racing, but in fact VSR Racing in fourth place. Novus Racing, again, we send out our regards to the team after they shut down earlier this week. And then Elite Risks for a fascinating SLR team, fifth place overall. Great racing and great qualifying from them, with Shizu's Louis in sixth, Stokey in seventh, and then PSR in eighth, with the other Outplayed Racing driver in ninth, and then Rusty rounding out the top 10. You know, not the best from Rusty, to say the least, and Nexus clearly struggling out there at the moment, with Scyther and PSR in 11th and Nico in 12th, Alfa Romeo in 13th with Francesco for Juventus in 14th, Shizu Jensen in 15th, and Ghost Colt, the other SLR driver, in 16th, and then you've got NRX's Finn in 17th, TV8 have got JTO 14 18th, Tidjin for the other Juventus driver in 19th, and then TF Talent Factory legend didn't qualify, of course, after serving his qualifying ban, and he starts at the back. The drivers are all on the grid and they're very keen to get racing. We're lined up on the grid. Here we go. And with those drivers counting on the grid, we're counting down the lights. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, and it's 5 lights. It's 5 lights, and they are a go. The drivers, here they are. We do have a disconnection from Louis all the way down in 6th place at the moment. He'll be looking to join back as soon as we can, but down the inside line, Asicom will be looking to get me. He's having to defend from an attack potentially from TF Max, looking very strong around the outside of Lucas, defending from for third place at the moment. Really good stuff, actually, as OP Kian of the Outplayed Racing team looking so sharp in 7th, but PSR Wilson looking really good at the moment in 6th place at the moment. Up 2 positions already. Stokey down 1.
Yes, an interesting start indeed. They're trying to get Louis back in the lobby, but I'm just looking there. It's now Fatali getting the mix there. Scyther and P9, a bit of contact there with a fellow driver. He's ghosted out. He's dropped back down to P10. Is Stokey managing to try and regain that position up into P9. He's not had the best of starts in that Red Bull whatsoever, but other than that, at the front, it's all been pretty quiet.
Yeah, Velox will not be happy. They've got a driver really struggling at the moment. Down in 9th, and he loses 2 positions. He's trying to defend here from Rusty as he makes a dive potentially. No, gets in the ring mirrors though, at least here. And has got Scyther also looking fairly strong, up 1 position already. Trying to battle with Stokey, make him lose another position at the moment as Lucas and Elite Risk getting into a battle here. SLR looking really sharp with Elite Risks at the moment as he stays and goes up to 4th place, battling with VSR's Lucas at the moment. And there, the position is taken. Good move from SLR.
Yeah, certainly is. Just looking in there, Lucas there, oh, a big moment there coming through that final corner, all over the back of Elite Risk. So as they're coming to that start finish straight, the Williams being forced to defend already. No DRS enabled. This is purely just a slipstream with DRS, but as they come into turn 1, it's maybe just not enough for the Mercedes, and Lucas for the time being might have to stay in 5th, but the Williams running wide there. No opportunity there for Lucas, and he has to stay behind in P5.
Yeah, there's the tyre situation for the moment. Everyone in the top 15 are on hard tyres. Ghost Colt though for SLR on the mediums, alongside Juventus Racing Tidjin also on the mediums. Finn, Louis and Francesco though also on medium tyres as they'll dive there from from Lucas trying to get up on the inside of Elite Risks, but VSR aren't able to make the inroads and actually may have hemorrhaged a bit of time here to allow PSR Wilson to get into the mix here. The qualifying wasn't looking sharp, but the racing looking a little bit sharper at the moment for PSR. Looking alright as he going through turn 8 at Samsung.
Just what I mentioned, Legion who managed to have that qualifying, but I remember in P14 at the moment, what a session, or what a race I should say, he's had so far. It might even be P13 now on VSR. Nico's going down the inside, he sent it on that Mercedes, and what a move that was there from the Ferrari. Another position gain for that Talent Factory driver, and you know what, he's having an absolute flyer, and it's only 2 laps in.
Yeah, he's looking really sharp out there at the moment as we've got some potential battles happening between Juventus and TV8 at the moment, and Velox JTO 40 at the moment, struggling down in 17th place and losing a couple of positions as it stands at the moment, racing with Tidjin as Nehemiah going fastest of anyone so far, of course, with that 20.1, looking really good out there, but still in the DRS territory as we've got side-by-side action happening between Lucas and Wilson going into turn 1 and leaving, to be fair, plenty of space here between the two. Very respectful racing as Lucas is trying to go around the outside of Wilson, but Wilson is going to have the inside line, and that will be the advantage going up the corner because he's off camber if you're on the inside line, so the traction's going to be there, and that move is clearly all done and dusted. Wilson up to 5th, Lucas down to 6th.
Wow, fantastic racing from the two of them there. Wilson, he was just a bit braver, wasn't he, in the end? I managed to get that move done, but I think the downside to that is he's just about lost DRS to Elite Risks in front of him now, so a little bit of work to be done for that McLaren. He's just managing to creep into that 1 second range, and he needs to keep this up because losing the DRS could be absolutely vital for the sake of his race.
Yeah, difficult stuff at the moment then. So Wilson now up to 5th place and actually already gaining some time already on Lucas at the moment. But DRS is now enabled, so but this is where we'll start to see the DRS train form at the moment. And this is a difficult situation here for the SLR driver of Elite Risk. He's already munching through his ERS quite aggressively here. And as a result, he's going to put himself at risk of potentially being overtaken by Wilson quite early on here. He puts the overtake on anyway to try and get within the 1 second of TF Max, but unfortunately he's missed his detection point by a country mile, and as a result, no DRS available for the SLR driver.
Yeah, that's a real shame. DRS is pretty huge, no matter what the kind of circumstances. So this early on, oh, it's a big moment in the turn 1 there for Elite Risk, and there you have it. That is going to cost him a position to PSR Wilson then there, and I think he'll just be glad that he's still on the race, because that could have been a pretty huge moment there for the grand scheme of things. As NVR Lucas now on the back of the Williams, can he try and put pressure on this Williams driver as you see coming down at the left hander? He makes a move late on the brakes, goes to NVR Lucas, a bit of contact between the two of them as well for good luck, and the Williams, and then he's had to be forced to kind of concede that, but he's came back on side by side. He's not giving up that easily as Elite, but there you have it. In the end, just about Lucas makes a move.
Elbows out, son. He's licked the stamps, he sent it, and he's absolutely, well, taken the position straight out of the hands of the SLR driver. Though I think he'd argue, well, he kind of forced me off the track by nudging me, so we'll have to see if SLR, but you can see the pressure on Elite Risks already is now starting to fault here. The SLR driver starting to feel the pressure without the ERS available around him. At the moment, he's become a bit of a sitting duck after that turn 1 incident. He's going to find himself under pressure here from Outplayed Racing's Kian in the Alpha Tauri. As he then heads around the corner of turn 14 into turn 15, the Alpha Tauri will be looking to sweep up a position quite easily here. He's got the position and he's actually quite far ahead at the moment with Elite Risk, but the problem is this straight end speed is going to be a real difficulty. DRS open and overtake is available for the Outplayed Racing driver, but chooses not to use it. Stays behind Elite Risk, stays P7. Ooh, that's a mistake going through turn 1 though, and here he comes then. He's going to make the move going into turn 3. You'll have to see. Go side by side, and it's very close margins between the Outplayed Racing driver there and SLR, but Kian stays in front. DRS available immediately then, as he's going to make the move potentially very easily going through into turn number 5. Torre VIP position done and dusted. Elite Risk trying to hold on around the outside line, but Rusty's going to want to swallow him up. Elite Risk is in trouble.
Yeah, certainly is. That's the same mistake 2 laps. They're always going to want to cut that out as soon as they can, because he's just hemorrhaging positions lap after lap at the moment. It's certainly not what you want to see as Scyther and Stokey. They're getting pretty close between each other there. Scyther all over the back of the Red Bull now, coming into turn 10 and 11. Can the McLaren make the move on the Red Bull? He's down there.
What's a dive?
Oh, it's very, very late, but there you have it. He's managed to make it work. Stokey, I don't think he can reply to that when he's trying to get the switch back on the McLaren, but Scyther, he's got everything covered off, and what a move that is, up into P9.
Oh, what a cracking looking move from PSR Scyther, and PSR so happy with the result of that one, going through into turn 10, turn 11, move taken, and up to 9th place for Scyther. The next victim in the eyes of PSR will be the man in form at the moment, NRX Rusty, currently in 8th and struggling a bit. Portugal clearly is Achilles' heel at the moment, but staying within the DRS territory of Elite Risk, and with the lack of ERS management from the Williams, the SLR driver is going to get overtaken going into turn 1 and is forced out wide, and not as much, shall we say, in the way of respect between him and NRX Rusty as it was between him and Lucas, but on this occasion now moved down to 8th place, and Scyther will be very keen to get this move done as early as he can, and he certainly is. He's looking for it, but immediately making the overtake defense actually, but no, he's going to go for the dive anyway. Is Scyther, and then nudged off the track again is Elite Risk, and SLR are going to be absolutely livid, saying what is going on with being overtaken left, right and centre. Elite Risk is still in there, and he's forcing Scyther into a defensive position. Switch back at turn 8 though, potentially, but not on this case here, with the clearly not having the grip through turn 8. Is he going to go for the infamous move again through turn 9, 10, into turn 10, 11? No, not on this particular occasion, but he could look for it if he wanted to. Going through into turn 13, but I suppose he's not going to go for it here, and he's going to wait for the DRS. Scyther advantage here.
Yeah, it certainly is. Risk, I'm not too sure what's happened to him. All that qualifying pace, all the optimism, it's just diminished within these 6 laps. He is only going one way, and that is backwards at the moment, unfortunately, for the Williams. I don't see that changing anytime soon as we come on to lap 7 now. Scyther all over the back of Williams. He's got the ERS advantage, he's got DRS as well, and I don't really see what Risks can do here to try and keep this P8 as they come across line. Now let's see what he can do. Scyther pulls off to the inside, and he moves up into P8 as well there. The Williams lost just another position. He maybe can get a switch back, but that's covered off by Scyther. So it's P8 for the McLaren.
Yes, as we've got people leaving the session left, right and centre, and I'm wondering if we're starting to see disconnection issues coming in here. We've lost Carperson, we've lost Ghost Colt, we've lost FRA Stokey as well. I'm wondering if we're going to be on the potential breaches here of a potential restart on this occasion, because we are starting to see a bunch of disconnections occurring now, including we've lost Rusty as well towards the front. Tidgin's also looking like he's out of this session as well here. So this will be the decision here of the drivers to decide on what's going to be happening here. We'll keep an eye on, see if the administrator decides to make a restart here, if the disconnections include more people across the board, because we've lost 4 drivers, as I believe here, as Rusty does manage to reconnect into the session here. We'll keep an eye out on that one and keep you informed. Obviously, if you are watching, 115 of you tuning in as well, thank you very much for your patience with this game, which is continuously improving as it continues to improve its... No, sorry, shall I tell a lie? It's not improving, is it? We'll keep an eye out on that one anyway, nonetheless. PSR Wilson looking very sharp at the moment. PSR, if a restart happens, this will be disappointing to say the least for PSR, because they've been flying out there at the moment.
Yeah, they certainly are. I'm just trying to invite the people back as we speak at the moment, so yeah, try and get that done as quick as I can.
Yeah, we're struggling at the moment. I'm sure that obviously you're working on the commentary invites here, because I think we've got a message coming in from Luke to get the people involved here. We'll keep an eye out on the administrator side on that one. We'll keep an eye on what's happening in front at the moment, as Nehemiah is also struggling at the moment out there with pace, because he was suddenly finding some real pace towards the front, but now he's under pressure from Asiko, Max and Wilson actually locking up, going through into the Tour de VIP from Nehemiah for WOR. So starting to feel a bit of pressure towards the front here. Scyther looking to try and find the 3-second gap if he can towards the front here. Rusty relegated all the way far down as 12th here at the moment, as we're just keeping an eye out and see what's happening here. His pedals are not calibrated at the moment, says one of the teams here. I think it might be potentially Lue, who is struggling at the moment with calibration issues related to his pedals, and if that is the case, there could be some serious potential risk here of a restart. We'll keep an eye out on that one, of course. TF Max, though, 8 of 33 to go as we go on board with the Ferrari, and the Talent Factory driver looking to stay in close proximity with second and first at the moment. Callum, appreciate that you are currently trying to get invites out at the moment, but if PlayStation drivers are being disconnected here, they're at risk of potentially not being invited back at all. Yeah,
that's the issue. I can't invite anyone on PlayStation back. It's just, unfortunately for them, it's just the Xbox guys. So yeah, it's a slight issue there. I'm not too sure if it's crossplay related or just fun related. So yeah, that is certainly an interesting thing to point out, and it's unfortunate because we were on for an absolute cracking race, and it definitely does kind of question a little bit of the kind of questions the dynamics of it a little bit now. So yeah, it's all done for.
People asking the question of it was only 4. Yeah, it was only 4, but how many more is it going to be if there's disconnections happening? We had 1 earlier, it was 4 now. By the time we get to lap 16, how many people are going to get disconnected, I wonder? That's the question. We'll see what happens over the next few laps anyway. I hope this doesn't end up resulting in a restart too late into this race. I'd be making the call as early as possibly can, to say the least. anyway. Asicombe has actually managed to make the overtake on Nehemiah. So Nehemiah actually struggling out there at the moment with ERS. He's been munching through it quite aggressively here, and he's actually dipping below 20% is the WOR driver, and as such the outplayed racing driver of Asicombe has managed to make the overtake on the straight, and actually Nehemiah is potentially at risk of being overtaken by Max, potentially even Wilson here.
Yeah, certainly is. It's quite interesting to see now that maybe that piece isn't there anymore, and yeah, it's going to be a pretty interesting one for this race. I'm just looking now at the time now. It's interesting to see Scyther a long way off it now after all that battle, and he's just dropped off from that top 6, and that kind of makes his race a little bit more difficult now. The top 6 are within one DRS train. They'll be gaining laps time every lap. They'll be gaining the DRS back as Scyther. It's going to be a little bit of a sitting duck, quite lonely out there in P7.
Breaking news coming in, the race will now be restarted. As a result of the 4 people lagging out, it has been deemed a mass disconnection, and I must admit I completely agree with the teams out there to make the call to restart this one, because if 4 people disconnect, how many people is it going to be later down the line? We already had 1 disconnecting before the lights even went out in Louis, and then 4 other people have disconnected. That will be it for this particular lobby. The lobby will be restarted, and we'll be getting on with the continued coverage of this Portuguese Grand Prix, but I hope that we could be in for a very interesting race. Keep in touch. We'll be back very shortly. Stay tuned. New lobby has been set up across the sports sphere. Invites have been sent out, and we should be going live with our race, hopefully within the next 2 to 3 minutes. Stay tuned, we'll be back very shortly for this continued coverage of the Portimao race here in Portugal. Few further issues now developing. Thankfully to this game, we're showing obviously that we're clearly at our peak when it comes to the issues that we're seeing with the game. Unfortunately, though, we are going to be slightly further delayed by another further at most 5 minutes whilst we try and get everyone in the lobby. We'll keep you in the loop about this one, and I will keep you in touch as these drivers are very keen to get going for a Portuguese Grand Prix, as are we, and I'm sure you guys are as well. Good evening then, ladies and gentlemen across the world. We are back for this race here in Portugal. This is the Legacy Division for Season 2, and we are coming at you live from the hills of Portimao with the flowing circuit. Ahead of us going to be fielding round number 2 of what is going to be a very interesting event ahead of us. It is going to be a 15-turn track in 2.891 miles, 4.653 kilometers with 2 DRS zones ahead of us, and 15 very, very interesting turns. Turns 10 through 14 going to be the make or break, as turn 8 is going to be crucial. And of course, don't forget turn 1, the hotspot for racing with that long DRS zone. It is myself, Jota, alongside Callum G for this race, and it is going to be a particularly interesting race. Now, we've had to have a very long delay to get people in the lobby, but we are, I think, anyway, going to be in for a clean now race ahead of us after what was, I think, a very difficult start with that issue, with those issues in the race.
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, everyone. It's good to be back once again for the race. Hopefully the technical issues are behind us now. We can move on and we can look forward to hopefully a pretty good race. The grid has been reset back to qualifying, so any good gains made by drivers have all been completely diminished. You put that behind them as well, and you have to try and focus on a new race at hand. So yeah, this should be a pretty interesting one to come up.
Okay, so we're just having a very quick look at the situation that's happening, and I am hoping anyway that we are not in a position where we think that things are right. I think everything is okay, because I think people are just taking the mick here. Yeah, I think people are just sort of taking the mick here about the restart situation. It has been a particularly interesting set of events ahead of us that's led us into this situation. We think that the lobby's all fine now and we can get going for this race. I'm just monitoring the situation to make sure everything is perfectly all right here. However, we are looking like we're going to be going in for another restart. I'm sorry for the slow pauses as we're trying to figure out what's going on here, but I have a feeling we may be going in for another lobby here. We will see what happens anyway, as people are saying we're just going to go ahead and go straight on with it here. We'll see anyway. We're going to go ahead as if the race is going ahead, and we'll hope that things are going to be all perfectly fine, as it's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, and it's 5 lights. It's 5 lights, and they are a go. The drivers, here they are, and then going down that inside line. Nahimar is trying to defend from Asicom, who actually gets a better start than the last time here, but still has to defend from TF Max, who actually gets a really good move around the outside, goes so late on the brakes and keeps it well within close proximity, as people are now making some moves around the inside line, as Elite Risks also making some inroads for NLR on this occasion, for SLR on that one, and making the inroads immediately on the blocks and getting straight up to 4th. But NVR Lucas representing the team for VSR, trying to go around the outside, but the driver from SLR very, very kindly leaving the space, though let's be candid, in the previous race he wasn't left any space at all, but on this occasion he can't make the move and stays in 5th.
Yeah, Risks, who was pretty much bullied that last race, but he's trying to get his elbows out now in P5. He's going to have to learn from his mistakes in that last race. He fell back really, really quickly the last time, so he needs to make sure that does not happen this time around. And so far, it is looking pretty good for the Williams. They're just looking there. That's PSR Wilson with Shizuru Louis. There, two of them going side by side. This is all just for P7. We've already got a disconnection. Let's just hope that's not a sign of things to come. The PSR Wilson up into P6.
Yeah, particularly interesting stuff then between Wilson and Louis on that one, but Louis holding on then for dear life, as now Wilson tries to make some inroads on the SLR driver, and SLR opportunity, of course, with this restart to try and not use as much ERS on this occasion, and might be able to defend from those in front, as Nahimaya, who was struggling to get into the lobby early on, does manage to get involved here. So we've got a really close overtaking happening here potentially between Rusty and Stokey at the moment, as TV8 aren't able to hold on and stays in P10, as Rusty now up to P9.
Yep, good move there by Rusty. He's got more yellow flags, and that's a crash. Is that possibly VSR Nico? Yes, it is, and again, Alex Finn as well has been caught up in the mix there, so that's a real shame. Shizuji Instant as well, I think he's been caught up in a lap one instant. He's in the pit lane getting a new front wing, so a couple of kind of incidents here and there, and that's going to just help the field spread ever so slightly. So yeah, it's a shame there for those two drivers involved.
Oh, crikey, we don't know what's going on here as Jensen has had to pit as well for Shizou, so he's struggling now down towards the midfield as well as Legend makes another legendary sort of inroads on the first race. He's doing it again in the second, now up to 13th place, up 7 positions from his qualifying ban, down in 20th. He's going to make some inroads on Scyther though if he wants to try and continue on his push here, and actually gets a very good turn 9 actually as he now heads through and continues on now and heading into 10, 11, 12 and 13. It's going to be close actually around the outside line, and this is one hell of an overtake around the outside of the PSR driver. What a move from Legend up to 12th as he tries to go down the inside line to Scyther. He will have, though, the DRS on this particular lap, of course. This is lap, oh no, in fact, no DRS on this occasion. It's the end of the third lap where we'll see that one. So it's all going to be about traction down the straight here as Rusty goes fastest of anyone so far. Scyther looking to go down the straight and down the line on the outside of turn 1. Legend re-overtaken. Great racing between these two.
Yeah, fantastic stuff there, Legend. He was fantastic on that last race and start, and he's done it once again, showing that was absolutely no fluke. And up into P12 at the moment, getting once again back by Scyther. I just missed that one, unfortunately, but unbelievable stuff from the two of them there. Scyther's not giving up just yet. He's got the DRS. The Ferrari might have to defend while he dive at Scyther. He looked to sneak it down the inside, but he thought better of that one, and he will stay in P13 for the time being, looking further ahead. Scyther's teammate Wilson, and the war's going round the outside of Elite. Is Elite a bit of a mistake there? And he's had to go off the track, and Shizou, he might even get a bit of contact between the two of them there. That's almost a domino effect. Rusty now coming round outside the key, and then what can Louis do to defend off it? Rusty, he's absolutely flying round outside the two of them, 2 and 1. He's absolutely made that one. Think there's a Red Bull in the background trying to get stuck in, but Rusty up into P7. Great stuff there from him as Keen as well, trying to get through on Louis. It's all kicking off here, and this is just for P7. Can Keen make anything of this move? I don't think he can. He stays behind in P8 for the time being.
Ah, genius from Rusty, managing to get the overtakes on those drivers and making really mincemeat of the likes of Keane and Louis. And all of that sort of battle, he was like, I'm just going to invite myself into this one, and takes the positions up, no problem at all. Up to 7th now as Shizou Louis managed to hold off from Keane in 8th, but now DRS of course now available on this occasion. Louis is obviously able to keep close as he possibly can to Rusty and try and stay in P8 at the moment as the trains now start to form, as Legend now begins the battle to rise up the rankings and now gets closer to car person for WOR, and FRA Stokey representing TV8 in 10th at the moment, now managing to get now closer and closer into the top 10. It's only 4 laps. He's made it 8 positions up already. I think the Talent Factory are going to be well happy with the performance of Legend for 2 races in a row.
Yeah, absolutely. He's done a fantastic job, and it's really, really impressive stuff from him so far, but still very much early days in this race. One thing I want to point out, Elite's done a better job so far compared to last race in P6 at the moment, and he's just about hanging on in there. I don't know if the pace is completely there to hang with the top guys, but he's certainly just kind of hanging about a little bit more. Scyther, I think it's a spin there down in P19, and that is definitely not ideal for the McLaren PSR driver, because he is absolutely well out it now. Yeah,
not cooking at all at the moment. This Scyther is struggling out there now. Is him on the fresh medium tyre. Looks like he's just come out of the pits and spun immediately out of the blocks, and PSR are one of their quickest drivers out there now, really going to struggle to get some inroads on the potential undercut on this one here. It's very early to say the least here as we keep an eye out on Asicombe, as now trying to make some inroads. At one point leading this race, and the restart happened as he was leading the race, but now he's struggling to keep up now with TF Max and Nehemiah at the moment, as Nehemiah is struggling with ERS management again by the looks of things, and immediately cuts off now Max from making any inroads into turn 3. So Nehemiah stays here, but now actually maintaining his ERS on this particular occasion, so learning from the mistakes of the last race on this one, but he's now struggling with DRS detection here from the likes of Max and Asicombe. Asicombe now able to get closer, but staying in the background of the battle with there, and actually battling more so with the VSR driver of Lucas up in 4th.
Yeah, it's all really close between that top 5. Wilson's absolutely hounding down Lucas as well, so he'll be looking to try and make a move on that Mercedes, but it's certainly not an easy thing to do. It's a complete DRS train in that top 5. Then you've got Risks just behind them all in P6. He's just about hanging on for dear life there. He's just within that threshold to get DRS as well, so it's all pretty close stuff here out at the front 5 laps in.
Yeah, just keeping an eye out on that battle with Wilson, actually getting really close here to Lucas actually in that one, and actually getting very close to the Mercedes up on that rear end heading into turn number 13. So this is going to be pretty spicy actually going down here. DRS is now enabled, of course. Using ERS out of the corner of turn 14 actually was Wilson, so he is wanting to potentially put a challenge on the VSR driver. VSR PSR is where it was at actually last season, and these two drivers representing both of the teams, but as it stands, the DRS train holding Wilson from making any major progress. Lucas stays in 4th.
Yeah, not too much going on between the top guys. The DRS just kind of each other out a little bit, and it stops any real progress being made. So it's just interesting to see the Wilson certainly is looking pretty feisty at the moment. Just trying to see any moves get maybe boiled up to be made, but doesn't look like everyone's pretty happy where they are for the time being.
Yeah, damage unfortunately for Scyther, which led him to make that early pit stop. Of course, any potential undercut that may come from going in the pits early on this one has obviously been completely nullified after spinning out, leaving the pit lane, unfortunately for the team at PSR, as well as one of their drivers potentially at risk of not getting sort of in that major front battle at the moment. It's going to be interesting anyway. 6 of 33 gone as these times are coming in thick and fast, so we've got potential battles happening towards that front there. It looks like actually Asicone was getting closer and closer to Max, but stays in third at the moment as the DRS train forming from first as far down as 14th at the moment, with Nico for VSR just trying to catch now the group of drivers all trying to get within the DRS train from the front.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite impressive to see. Risks has done a good job getting back into the DRS areas. I think that is Jensen for their back, who's unfortunately spun for Shizou there, so not ideal stuff from him there. Just as we come now onto lap 7, he moves, might be ruined. Max is getting pretty close to Nehemiah, but not really close enough to make any sort of real threat, and that is kind of the same for everyone else. It's DRS counting each other out and not really being able to pose much of a threat going into turn 1. So it's just down with Max here. He's coming out of turn 4. Can they get any sort of move? It's a pretty short straight down into turn 5, so you really need to be on it. And Max, he's happy where he is. The pace is pretty nice, and he's going to stay behind that Alfa Romeo for a couple of laps more.
Yeah, just on board at the moment with elite risks for SLR. Best case scenario for him actually in this pit stop with the stoppage and the restart, because it's allowed the Williams driver to actually just maintain his own ground here and actually kept his ERS here, as a mistake from VSR's Lucas here has allowed Wilson to potentially get that little bit closer. DRS enabled, and there's another risk here because Elite Risks has now spun out, and he spun out at, guess where, turn 8, as where we're seeing an initial situation occurring. It was best case scenario for the SLR driver, is able to maintain his own race, but he's now had an unforced error and he's put it straight into the grass, and that has now resulted in him falling as far down as P15.
That's a real shame there. You got to feel for him a little bit. Just looking further up ahead, TF Max, he's absolutely flying all over the back of Nehemiah now as they're coming out the final corner. DRS enabled. I don't think there's much that Alfa Romeo can do. They've approached lap number 8 now, and I think it's going to be a new leader. And then you have it, Talent Factories. Max has took the lead of this race. Pretty simple move, and not too much Nehemiah could do about that.
Yeah, Talent Factory will be happy with that one. So Nehemiah then relegated down to P2 as a result of that one, and he's going to start to feel the pressure of being the driver now in second place. Question is where's Asicone going to come into this one? Is he going to start maintaining his own race? Look at the amount of ERS he's got as well. He's cooking hard at the moment with just over 90% of his ERS available. He's able to just maintain his own race and think about exactly when he wants to make that overtake. Stays within touching distance of Nehemiah, and that first place is not going to be immediately run away here with Max. I'm sure the Talent Factory will be thinking about the long-term prospects if he starts pushing on those hards too quickly, to say the least here on this one. Anyway, Elite Risks is the driver who struggles now down in 15th place, as Ghost Colt can't reconnect into the session by the sounds of things, as well as he's now disconnected from the session. Looks like more of a user issue as opposed to an issue related to the lobby, though, on this occasion, thank the Lord. Lucas, though, staying in 4th place at the moment, though, with Wilson in 5th, trying to back but now from a challenging of Rusty. Rusty, on that last occasion, was really struggling with the track. Now he's actually flying at the moment, but he's really struggling with his ERS, below 20%.
Yeah, not ideal for Rusty, just making sure he has to get in that DRS, and I think that's maybe why that EIS is such a low percentage, but main thing is he's still just about within that DRS range, and that can be pretty huge. Just looking, PSR Wilson, he's looking pretty racy at the moment, all over the back of NVR. Look, it's not going to be an easy move as they come into turn 1. He's a little bit short for straight, and as they come into turn 1, he's just a little bit too far back behind that Mercedes to make
Wait for the move, potentially going into turn 3, chooses not to, though. He's going to have the DRS available, though, going into turn number 5 at Torre VIP. But it says, here comes then the McLaren and the PSR driver with the DRS open, but chooses in the end not to go for the overtake as he lets Lucas cook further in P4 and getting closer and closer to P3, but a mistake and losing that time going through P4. He's struggling out there, actually, going through that corner, missing the apex. He's not feeling confident then as he goes into turn 8. We'll see some more drivers potentially struggle as these tyres now begin to bed in, as it looks like we've got an issue again with Jensen down in 20th, as Scyther apparently sets the fastest lap of this race down in P18.
Yes, it's a shame there for Scyther. Obviously got that pace, but on the medium tyres as well, so take that with a little bit of a pinch of salt. Just looking, Talent Factory's Max, he's done a fantastic job out front. He's near enough broke that DRS already coming into turn 14, and he's just really stretching his legs now as we come around the final corner. I think Nehemiah might have actually lost the DRS. He's using all the DRS he can, but I think it might be too little too late for Alfa Romeo. And as we see here, as he comes onto the back front straight, there is no DRS for that Alfa Romeo, and Max has done a fantastic job at breaking that 1 second boundary and really just showing how quick he can be.
So here we come then, Nehemiah now out of the DRS zone of I'm nearly saying TK Max, I'm not going to lie, TF Max on this one, as he's getting closer and closer to bridging the gap between him and Nehemiah, and that's allowing this Assicombe to get closer and closer to a potential overtake, and WOR will be relegated to third. And I'm looking at that ERS at the moment. He is really struggling at the moment, is Nehemiah, below 20% and actually below 10% at the moment, as he's trying to get desperately into DRS, as Stokey is now disconnected for the session for TV8 rather, sorry, is now down in 9th place. As hopefully that is more of a user disconnection issue here as we keep going down the order. 10th of 33, 23 to go in this race here, as we've got more overtakes happening. Legend now making the move on Stokey.
Yeah, good lateral move there for Legend on Stokey. Not too sure how much Stokey can do about that one. Obviously that disconnection isn't doing him any favours at all. Try and get him back into the lobby, but Legend is looking really good at the moment, obviously with that qualifying ban starting from the back. But he's just shown how good he can be, and if his teammate up in P1 at the moment, he'll be looking to try and replicate that, and yeah, he's certainly on for a pretty good result here.
So here comes Legend then, as he's just coming around the corner, of course making the overtake on Stokey, who disconnects earlier on into this one here. Interesting stuff here, as there's another one. I think that one's more of a user disconnection though, says Jeremy Johnston, worried that there's more disconnection issues. I have a feeling that's more related to people choosing to disconnect here. Can't see that being a mass disconnection issue at the moment, but we'll keep you up to date on that one. If that ends up becoming the case, we may end up being in a case where the administrator may have to make a decision. Either way, Kian getting closer and closer to a potential overtake then on Louis. In 7th place at the moment is the Alpine and the Shizou driver, and the sole Shizou driver, of course, as earlier on, Jensen. Actually, unfortunately for him, decided to retire in the pit lane. He decided he's had enough after 2 spins, and down in 20th, they thought that will be it. So holds on now, Shizou, to just one of their drivers in Louis, and it's disappointing stuff as well, because Shizou are actually racing quite well towards the front in the standings at the moment.
Yeah, it's not ideal. Team like Shizou, you're wanting to be scoring points every week, and yeah, obviously, I didn't really look like Jensen had the pace. I think you've seen it in Q2 as well. Yeah, Q1 I should say actually just about made it through, and yeah, it didn't really look to be completely up there when you compare it to his teammate Louis. So yeah, just I think a week to forget for one of the Shizou drivers. Just looking as well though, I think Nehemiah, this pace isn't looking great now, is it? He's under a little bit of pressure now from Lucas. That red light is flashing, and that could also be P4 for him coming into this straight, because Lucas, just look at the speed that he's got. He pulls out to the right, and when he comes back in, it is going to be P3 down the inside. Pretty simple move there for the Mercedes.
Oh yeah, but then Nehemiah tried to stay around the outside and tried to put some pressure on as Stokey disconnects again from the lobby. Looks like some issues locally with him at the moment, as Nehemiah tried to stay around the outside. He was forced off, and he'll have DRS, but look at the ERS. He's down to 3 and 2, and then down to 1 as he goes into the corner, and that's so late on the brakes, and only just misses his apex. He's so late on the brakes, but he's now out of the podium positions as it stands. 12 of 33, 21 to go. Nehemiah, the pole sitter, really struggling out there.
Yeah, complete contrast to how good he was. Oh, it's a big moment there for Lucas coming through that turn 8. We talked about how tricky that could be, and it might just leave him vulnerable now. Nehemiah lost that position at the start. He could possibly make it back now, but he thought better of it. He's just trying to play the long game. But yeah, Nehemiah, complete contrast to how dominant he was in qualifying. If you were a betting that, and you've been putting some money on him to win this race, just because how comfortable he was in all qualifying sessions. But it just shows you there, it's not completely correlating to this race, as Lucas once again having a big moment there, and Nehemiah could possibly be looking to make a move here. But Wilson as well, let's team both of them up as they come up this back straight to start lap 13. Let's see what Wilson can do, because I think he's probably going to be your odds-on favourite to get the both of them here. He's already over the back of Nehemiah. He can't really do much about it. And look at the speed on the Mercedes as well. Lucas, I don't think he can do much about it. And PSR Wilson, it's 2 in the 1 straight as he moves up into P3, and that is fantastic stuff on the McLaren there. Textbook move.
Yeah, Lucas not able to get the traction out of turn 14 will cost him all of that straight line speed down the straight, and Nehemiah was then able to counteract with a potential attack, but then forced into a position to hold off as a result of PSR Wilson making some major inroads. Nehemiah tries to defend from a move going into turn number 5 at Torre Vip, but this Verste rather, not able to make any inroads as Stokey does reconnect into the session for the second time, clearly struggling with a local connection on that one here. Ruste stays in P6, but he's able to make some inroads on Nehemiah very quickly, but Wilson double overtake on the straight going into turn 1, and PSR have got a driver now into third place and at least a podium now, and that's points desperately needed at the moment for the team running riot last season.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not ideal when Scyther's in P18 as well, so Wilson is flying the soul flag for PSR, so yeah, a P3 would be fantastic for them in moments like that. Is definitely going to go along with to try and help in getting results like that. So good stuff there from Wilson. Just looking to see Nehemiah still really struggling once again. 14% ERS. Rusty, who's on such little ERS, has now got 22%. He's built that back up, and he'll be looking to make a move on that Alpha Romeo pretty soon, because I think he can tell us that that move is definitely there for the taking.
Yeah, just on board very quickly with Shizulu to see what his situation was like as regards to VRS. He's struggling, actually. So Rusty sort of stuck in the middle between a couple of drivers struggling with VRS, but he is, as well as his teammate. Finn has gone for a spin at, guess where? Turn 8 at Samsung. That's another driver struggling at that particular corner that we know is infamous for spins, as FRA Stokey has now pitted, and I'm not sure if that's his car or if that's him on making that decision, or if that's the ghost of his car whilst he's disconnected decided to make a pit stop, but it's getting bad from bad to worse at the moment for Valor and TV8 at the moment here, as we're just keeping an eye on Rusty struggling again with his ERS, keeping in touching distance with Nehemiah, and I think we're going to start to see now 5th, 6th and 7th both struggling with, all three of them struggling with the ERS, and then you've got Kian for Outplayed Racing with a little bit of ERS available at his disposal, could be on for another Wilson-esque double overtake here if he's got that electrical energy to play with in the former Honda power unit, the RPT engine, or the RBPT engine in the back of that car, as we've got a slow car, and I believe that may be FRA Stokey again struggling down the straight. Yeah,
he's got a couple issues there, Stokey, which is a shame. The pace looked to be there for some good results, but yeah, maybe just a couple of things maybe just not going his way tonight, unfortunately. So yeah, let's hope we can be back for something better this week. Just look at the scene now if any moves are on the making, but everyone really with that top 3 in a bit of a DRS train. 3rd, 10th are all with it, or 9th I should say, all within DRS, and that just means we're not going to see a hell of a lot of overtaking. But out front, TF Max, he's done a fantastic job at the moment. He's just checked out and is certainly in a bit of a world of his own.
Situation report then, Lucas still in 4th place and they're now just falling a little bit, nearly a second behind Wilson at the moment. He's flying out there as the Paradox Sim Racing team driver, but he's struggling with the ERS, but I think a lot of people now are starting to begin to struggle with the ERS, so the DRS train now forming from 3rd all the way far down as 9th at the moment, with car person looking to try and get within the touching distance of Legend if he can, and Legend's now got into a bit of a stall in the DRS train as Scyther sets another fastest lap of this race, a 1:19.314 and 11 lap all medium tyres as well, so they're starting to wear quite thin at the moment, to say the least. 15 of 33. And situation report actually as regards the leader gap at the moment, Scyther 46.6 seconds back, but we'll fall maybe as far back as 12th maybe when the pit stops happen. It's quite a long pit stop round here as well, so that is going to be one to watch for certain for the PSR team as we go back towards the front. Gap 1.5 from Max to Assicombe, and about 2 seconds now Wilson to Assicombe, and Lucas still within touching distance, but again struggling with the RS. A bunch of people in that DRS train all struggling to make inroads, as the person at the moment with the most amount of ERS, to say the least, is the Outplayed Racing driver of Kian, and he's I think waiting just to get for Louis to get out of the DRS here, as Nico and Francesco getting into a swap down for 12th place at the moment. Switchback Francesco may look for it going into turn 3, elects not to, will have the DRS but no ERS for either of the drivers. Again, ERS management has been a real difficulty for these drivers. They're playing quite aggressive here.
Yeah, they certainly are. A lot of drivers really struggling with it. We've not got many people over really the 30-40% mark, the majority of the grid, and then really those single digits or the teens for the most part. So yeah, it's pretty incredible to see just how much everyone's pushing, and yeah, that's just really causing for the EIS limits to be pretty low, which is always a pretty interesting dynamic to see throughout the race.
So situation report at the moment with 16 of 33 played. We're just about halfway there, folks. Keep an eye out and what's happening. There's 110 of you tuning in as well, despite the late start to this race. Thank you to every single one of you for your support here, as we do go on back on board with the TV8 driver of Stokey. He is now back in the lobby and now racing, and he's got a bit of a job to do here now, pitting onto the mediums a little bit earlier than I think everyone at TV8 wanted him to, as he's now just trying to challenge potentially Ghost Colt, 2 seconds in front.
Yep, Shazul Louis, he's out at the pit lane as well for the Alpine. That's an interesting one. That might trigger a couple of undercuts as well throughout the pack, so just about halfway point. He's had enough of those hards in the pit. I would imagine for the medium compound tyres, no wing change, so it's all pretty routine stuff. For the Alpine man, good stop there and out. Back out again, he should be in some clean air, and he'll be looking to try and get some good lap times in there, make the most of the undercut and try and make the most out of those fresh medium tyres.
Yeah, interesting stuff on that one then. So 17 of 34 now on this one. 1.3 seconds separating Assicombe from Max. 2.2 from Wilson to Assicombe. So it's all about that DRS train from Wilson falling now as far back again as Legend with car person behind. Stokey now setting fastest lap of this race here as TVA are desperate to make some inroads here at the moment. I think it's been really actually unfortunate stuff for TVA as well. JTO40's never really been on the pace in this race as well. I think it's been the Achilles heel of a bunch of drivers tonight, and FRA Stokey disconnecting, and at one point in the DRS train for the top 10, now down as far as 16th as he's just overtaken the ghost of Ghost Colts for SLR, as I think his race is now over and done for.
Yep, it looks to be the case, unfortunately, for him. So yeah, not ideal stuff. Just looking to see if anyone's going to be reacting to Loy pitting last lap. So Wilson decided to stay at the top two, staying out as well. But Nehemiah has decided to come into the pit lane. He's had enough of those hards. Keen as well has followed him in, and so has Legend. So there's three drivers all diving up into the pit lane, and this is where it all starts to get a little bit interesting.
Prince Sergey in the chat, thank you very much for giving your comments as we've seen some people coming into the pit lane asking the question, what is this thing with Legacy? How is it different to any other tiers? Well, sir, you're asking the question of what's different. The reason why it's different is because in the regular tiers you'd obviously have a bunch of drivers all racing for themselves in their respective constructors, McLaren, Mercedes, etc. But these teams are racing with their own individual teams. So we're on board with PSR Wilson at the moment. This is PSR McLaren. Paradox Sim Racing are represented in the McLaren this season, and they will be racing for the drivers representing the team will be the ones that are representing their own individual teams. So PSR Wilson for McLaren, and you've got NRX racing in the Aston Martin, and WOR in the Alfa Romeo, etc. So if you want a little bit more information, feel free to pop over to our Twitter at WORLeague_ if you want a bit more information on that one, as Nehima is currently battling at the moment with Kian, as they're both on new medium tyres at the moment, as Nehima goes out wide at turn 8, and it looks like the outplayed racing Alpha Tauri just going to miss out on that one, but as it stands, those pitting on for this set of medium tyres, Nehima leads the way, but Assicombe has decided he's going to try and match that pit stop, and he's going to hope that actually he's done a very good outlap. We'll see anyway, as the AlphaTauri now comes in as the outplayed racing driver. We'll hope that his teammate has done enough that Nehemiah is not going to be able to gain massively. And to be fair, he's only just coming around turn 14 actually, as he now heads through turn 15. Assicombe will be hoping he's got the jump on Nehemiah, and he's just coming across now out of the pit lane. I tell you what, look at the jump he's got on Nehemiah on this one here. JTO40 gets the cut, but as it stands so far, what a jump from Assicombe. He stays well out in front by over 5 seconds.
Yeah, that's quite incredible actually, just showing the power of the overcut in that scenario there. Obviously he's going to have cold tyres, so he's going to lose a little bit of that 5 seconds. It might go about 4.5, maybe 4 before he's really back up to full racing speed. But wow, that is some hell of an overcut there from Assicombe, and he will be very pleased with the outcome of that. So yeah, that really does kind of beg the question if the undercut was even worth it around here, and by the looks of things, maybe the overcut was the way to go.
Outplayed Racing will be really happy here. They could be on for a race victory here if the Talent Factory Max don't pit here. And the yellow flags are now waving, and I think we're waving for NRX Finn, who's looks like he's spun at turn 2. Situation report, though, is Elite Risk gets a 3-second time penalty for his troubles. Assicombe is going to get the tow from JTO40, and he's going to be able to get a DRS as well, so that's going to help on his pit down towards turn 1 here. And so TF Max has decided he needs to pit, and he's done exactly that. So he'll now be leaving the pit lane as we speak, and Assicombe is now getting the tow from JTO40, who's also going to give him DRS as he comes through the corner with overtake available, and the DRS then enabled now. Down the straight he will go. TF Max is just leaving the pit lane as we speak, but Assicombe gets in front of JTO40, but TF Max stays in front on this occasion, so the undercut didn't work as effective then for the Outplayed Racing driver. While this is all happening, by the way, Outplayed Racing has just made a move with Kian on Nehemiah, so now as it stands, they've got 2 drivers on the podium as it stands, if my math works out right.
Yeah, I think it just depends where obviously Wilson, Lucas and Rusty come out. I think it's quite hard to tell now with how that overcut and undercut is working, but if these 3 guys have been pretty well behaved on their tyres and their lap times. I think we could actually maybe see Wilson and Lucas in them pretty healthy positions. PSR Wilson managed to check out to Lucas, 1.6 seconds between the two of these guys. They were roughly, I think, P3 and P4 respectively before the pit stops occurred. So it's pretty interesting to see there as PSR Wilson comes around the final corner. He opts not to pit, but NVR Lucas does decide to pit, and Rusty stays out. So Lucas will be a good benchmark to see whereabouts the rest of these drivers fall into place.
Yeah, good stuff here so far between all of those in the front. So situation report now is that Outplayed Racing are the team in the advantage here, to say the least here. So Lucas has just pitted, so now he will be leaving on the pit lane, out of the pit lane with the set of medium size. TF Max is easily going to be able to get, you think, the overtake, as will Asicombe. Kian is going to be another question here. JTO 40 may also be in the mix here. So there goes TF Max and Asicombe. Lucas also going as well. Here comes Lucas then, as he is now rejoining the track. And as it stands, Kian has not managed to make the undercut. So Lucas will stay in third place respectively at the moment, but he does have one, no disrespect to JTO 40, but considered a back marker at the moment because he's still yet to make his pit stop, and with a penalty on his case as well, he may try to defend from Lucas, and to be fair, he has every right to.
Yeah, absolutely. That could definitely be a bit of a spanner in the works there for Lucas, and it could be good news for Rusty as well. Rusty was just behind NVR Lucas, remember, so if that could be pretty big for Rusty. If he can stay out and try and get a good lap in, he could maybe see himself gain a couple of moves on that overcut as Keen all over the back of Lucas. Now those cold tyres on Lucas just not quite fired up yet to those ones on Keen's Alpha Tauri, but as we're coming through here, I think that Mercedes is starting to get back up to racing speed now, and yeah, he's just starting to get back up to the kind of the right temperatures to be at an optimal pace.
Race leader and Rusty both pitting now to get off of these hard tyres, so the last people yet to pit is JTO 40 for the TV8 team in 5th place at the moment. They may elect to stay out a little bit later in the hope of a safety car, but as it stands, everyone is actually in close proximity, so it is not out of the question. Either way, TF Max will be making the overtake on PSR Wilson and Rusty, you'd expect here. So there goes the Ferrari now on Rusty and the McLaren as well. Rusty now just leaving the pit lane alongside Wilson, so as it stands with everyone now pitting, it looks like JTO 40 has managed to get the jump on Rusty, but not on Wilson. So on that particular scenario, he still has to make an overtake. Does here, as we've got a spinner, and some really good overtakes actually happening between a bunch of drivers all pitting here for potential 7th place, including Nihima, the pole sitter. Rusty stays out in front. Lucas pitting, potentially getting into a battle. Is going to make the overtake on there on the Aston Martin. And what a switchback though from Rusty if this holds off. But he stays in front. Lucas up into 5th, and then Rusty and Nihima and Louis battling here as the Shizou driver looking to get in roads into turn 7, but ends up getting into a half spin, and now here comes Kian down the inside line of turn 8, but elects in the end not to make the overtake, and Legend potentially trying to make some moves going into turn 9. So here Nihima does manage to get the battle, but Shazoo making a move. Here comes Legend, here comes Talent Factory making the move going into turn 10, turn 11, and that move is now done and dusted. So what was looking fairly good for the Outplayed Racing drivers have been outplayed. They're down to 10.
Yeah, wow, what a chaotic couple of laps that was. It all started at the start. Lucas and Rusty getting into a bit of contact into turn 3, and it all went from there. There was chaos, moves breaking out everywhere, and in the end, everyone kept it on this track. So great racing from all of the guys involved there, and now Lucas is off into the sunset. He's trying to make the most of these tyres. He's trying to chase down, first of all, JT, and it could possibly be PSR Wilson, but you have to say Wilson, he's kind of checked off now in a little bit of a world of his own now in P3.
Yeah, good stuff then in the end between all of those. As I've just tried to catch my breath after that one. So Legend in the end stays in 9th with Louis in 8th. Nihima stays in 7th, and actually losing a bucket load of positions. It's like not an ideal scenario for the WOR driver, but some good points at least for WOR with Carperson in 11th as well. Lucas is in 5th, JTO 40. 4th place, but still needs to make his pit stop at the moment, and Rusty has got to try and now battle with Lucas making the jump on Rusty up to 5th place now. He's trying to battle with JTO 40, so the question is where is he going to be thinking? Is he going to be thinking behind or in front? Surely in front.
Yeah, you'd be like probably thinking that. It's going to be pretty interesting to see how Lucas deals with this one. It's going to be a pretty important thing here. Don't be losing too much time, Lucas, because Rusty's right behind him. He's looking to capitalise any mistake here from Lucas. it could be a pretty tough one to watch. So let's just see here. Lucas, he's teeing him up perfectly. He's near enough on the switchback, but he doesn't want to go too early. He doesn't want to make the move now, so he might not even get PRS. And this is a great opportunity now for Rusty, who's smelling them both out, coming through the final corner now. Lucas will be making a move on JT here, but let's just see what Rusty can do. He's all over the back of the Mercedes as well as they come across the line. It's that lap 24. Rusty all over the back of Lucas now, coming at someone. He goes, he's got the long way around the outside. He's going to be given the room on the inside just about. But what a move that was from Rusty there. Up into P5 he goes. What can Lucas do to respond? And that's not much to say the least there. Up into P5 goes the Aston Martin.
Yeah, not exactly what Lucas was looking for, and to be honest with you, Lucas had the DRS available, the ERS available to make the overtake on JTO40, but in the end, he's now going to be under pressure from Rusty, who does one hell of a dive on JTO40, but unfortunately, too hard, because now he's just let Lucas all the way back through again.
Yeah, all that hard work just going for nothing there. A little bit too ambitious, a bit too optimistic on the brakes there. And he's just went from 0 to 0 pretty quickly back into P6, and he has to do it all over again.
Yeah, that is unfortunately what is best described as driving, I think, with emotion. He's now gone in there a little bit too hot because he wants to get stuff done, and I think he wants to get stuff done, and I think let's be honest here, here comes Lucas. He wants to make an early inroads on JTO40, and we know we've seen them before lead into some unfortunate accidents that lead to some spins, as there is the spin, and Rusty gets into a collision as well, and JTO40 has been in a monumental accident with a bunch of other drivers, and the safety car has been called out straight away. And I think, to be fair, Lucas and JTO40 were getting into some really big ding-dong battle, but unfortunately it did come to a head. We knew that this was inevitable, and now people are making emergency pit stops here for surely a set of softs to the end.
Oh wow, what a spanner in the works that was. It's such a shame. It was such minimal contact, and Rusty just got tagged at the end of it. Oh, that just caused absolute carnage. So we've got Rusty in the pit lane. He needs a new front wing. A couple of drivers need a couple of new front wings and a new set of pants as well, I think, for a few of them. But it's the soft company tyres going on. They're going to the end. We've got a couple of guys still out, but they've not been caught by the safety car, so I think we'll probably see a couple of reactions there up the front as well. Probably the soft company tyres for probably all of the field.
Luke, you've got my salute, sir. Good luck to this one, because that one is going to be very difficult to judge, because look to me as if Lucas was really just trying to race around the outside, and in the end JTO40 with his old hard tyres trying to get them to the soft stint, unfortunately has led to an accident because he's understeered, and I think that's my case, but obviously the stewards may make a completely different opinion of it. Let us know what you think in the comments as well. Or 111 if you're still tuning in at nearly 9:30. Thank you very much to every single one of you tuning in, as we're now behind the safety car for, I believe, to be the first time this season. We didn't have a safety car at Monaco, and we did at Portugal. Can you believe it? So in the end, I think the people that are going to be raising their fists and getting incredibly angry are going to be the likes of TF Max, Assi Coleman, Wilson, who are all racing really hard. In fact, Lucas will be happy that this has happened in a weird way, despite the fact the accident involved him, because it means he's now right back in the fight, as well as, look who's in 5th. Legend is now up to 5th place and in a real good position to make some big inroads here from 20th. On the grid. Can he become the latest person to finish in 1st place at Portugal and become the king of Portugal, following in WOR Alfie's footsteps?
Yeah, this is very interesting now. I thought everyone would go onto the soft tyres, but obviously not. The guys at the front, they're happy on the medium. They think track position is more important, and I tell you what, this is going to be a very interesting couple of lap to the end. Some guys weren't even up for the softs. A couple of guys on for the fresh mediums instead of the softs. They didn't think the softs could make it to the end. So yeah, we've got a lot of different strategy calls throughout this grid, and yep, we've not going to got a lot of racing to go, but Joe, it's going to be a hell of a couple of laps left. Yeah,
looking forward to being alongside you for this one, folks. We are going to be in for a spicy event ahead of us. So some drivers elected for softs, some drivers have elected to stay on the mediums that they've pitted on. As it stands, this is what it looks like. Talent Factory, who are leading the championship at the moment, have got their driver in 1st place, and they're leading with Max. Assi Combs is in 2nd with Wilson in 3rd for PSR. Then it is what was formerly known as Novus Lucas. Novus's Lucas is now, of course, a VSR driver in 4th place, with Legend, who started in 20th place, now in 5th. But behind, he's got Outplayed Racing's Kian on a fresh set of soft tyres, then Louis for Shazoo, Carperson for WOR, and then Elite Risk as well for SLR. What a turn of fortunes it's been for him as well. He was absolutely falling down the standings in the first race, but now he is in 9th, with Tidjin in 10th, and then VSR Nico in 11th, and Ruste falling all the way far back as 12th after that accident with JTO 40 and Lucas. He ended up having to change his front wing and a fresh set of medium tyres for him because he doesn't believe the softs will go to the end, nor will Stokey and Francesco as well. Nehemiah, though, 15th place for the guy starting in first. He's on a fresh set of softs. He's got some major inroads to make for WOR.
Yeah, he certainly does. It's interesting to see he's that far back. And yeah, he definitely does have some inroads to make if he wants to make any sort of points in this race. I've been intrigued to see how the guys on the softs get on. Keane is going to be the first one to look at in P6, 2-lap old soft tyres. Will there be that big of a difference? Can they make the most of them? And most importantly, will they be able to make it to the end without having too much degradation? Then you've got Max out in front on the old medium tyres. The pace might not be there, but the track position certainly is. And it's basically a matter of time if Keane and Louis and Carperson can catch the guys at the front before the time runs out.
Yeah, time it is going to be running out thick and fast as well, so it will probably be with everyone now coming up to the back of the safety car queue. 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. Yeah, does that make it a 6-lap sprint to the end, I think, on that one? It would have been funny if it were 5, let's be honest. So especially some of the people in the chat as well, when we needed to do the second race, people were saying, why don't we just do a 5-lap sprint to the end, yeah? And we might actually be close to that, actually, based on the situation at the moment, as the safety car is now coming around at the moment, as we go on board with NRX Finn, who unfortunately, look where he is, he's right bang in the middle of everyone at the moment, as the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. So Scyther, Ghost Cole and Finn have made a last minute dash to get in, and the safety car is now coming in at the very last second, so it will be a 7-lap dash to the end of this race. What a set of events we're going to have ahead of us then. So the safety car coming in at the very last second. Some tyres may be quite cold at the moment, which could make for a very interesting start, as the Ferrari of the talent factory of Max will lead the way, as he's now going to hold back and wait for the safety car to come in to the pit lane. As he now just enters into the pit lane, TF Max will lead the way from the bunch of drivers. The question is where is he going to go? Usually some drivers like to leave it until the very last second and not leave that much of a tow. That is the question for the number 79 Ferrari, as he's now just letting people get around him and wants to get going here. The question is when is he going to go? As he goes down the straight now, he's got a perfect straight in front of him. When is he going to go? And there he does go, with one of the Aston Martins, I believe, pitting to get out of this race here. And we do go green again here in Portugal, and TF Max does manage to get a cut here as NRX Finn has retired in the pit lane. That is it for his race. Assicombe holds on from Wilson, from Lucas and from Legend, but we do have some attacking happening on the soft tyre stinters here, as Legend and Louis also get into a mix as well. Louis on the soft tyre versus Legend on the medium. He's going to squeeze him off of the track, and there comes the soft tyre runner of Kian, who's going to make the move on the inside line, going into Torre Vip. And there goes the move, and they're going to touch each other going through the corner, and the Ferrari can't hold on. He stays in, goes down to 6. Louis also racing with the lead. Here comes Carperson for WR down the outside line into turn 7, into turn 8. This is going to be difficult side by side around a corner like this one, but they hold on.
Oh wow, it's like bumper cars all over the field. I couldn't believe that first move that Keane made. That's what I gasped him. I thought he just outbroke himself. He managed to make the move stick. He's up at P5. He's now chasing these guys on the old medium compound tyres, but it all got a little bit messy there. Everyone's scrapping. 5 laps to go, and everyone's absolutely up for it.
Look at TV8 Stokey now coming around the outside line of the medium tyre as well, bearing in mind against, I think it's Juventus is racing Digin, but at the moment trying to hold on around the outside line, but he's got the traction as Stokey and actually gets the move done, and now he's up to 13th place in that battle, getting into a little collision. And the reason why I'm saying that is because Scyther's also in the mix. Soft tyres for him at the moment, and he's going to get the tow, and he's going to use up all that DRS available at his disposal. He gets one done. Is he going to get the other? He's going to have to go around the outside of turn 1 though, and that's going to be later on the brakes. Digit's trying to hold on, but PSR and Scyther get it done. 2 overtakes on the straight, turn 1, 12th place. Here comes Stokey trying to defend here and make a move, then going into turn 3, turn 4, and the Haas is trying to hold on, but gets into a tag slapper, and Digin has to concede the position. FRA Stokey and the TVA up to 13.
Just looking for P7 here. Carperson on Legend there. He's just not really got the pace anymore. Those medium combine tyres just starting to fade off a little bit compared to these fresh softs. and that's done it to P9 for him there. Car person, good move into P7, and he will look to try and follow on suit with Louis and Keane ahead.
Oh, crikey, now here comes the soft tyre runners as Keane and Outplayed Racing are on for some massive points tonight here, and this is exactly what they needed. They've got one driver on the medium tyre just holding his own in second place and keeping in touch with Max. Rusty, 3-second time penalty for his troubles, the Achilles heel burning bright at the moment, unfortunately, as Keane is getting closer and closer on these soft tyres. But look at his ERS level, he's not harvesting that much energy, and he's using a little bit too much, and I'm wondering if Keane's sort of pace towards on the straight is going to be a severe problem later down the line. DRS will be enabled, and now on this lap.
Yeah, no DRS obviously due to the detection point being at the start of the lap, but we will get it the second time around on that little mini straight coming into turn 5. So let's just see if we can see any moves. Keane, he's not completely close enough to make any sort of threat to Lucas. Those soft tyres maybe just not quite as good, but there we see him here all over the back of him now, and maybe a bit of a commentator's curse as we come into this middle straight. DRS will be enabled for Keane, but it's just not going to be to him as enough as it, unless we see a ridiculous dive bomb. He's going to go for it absolutely down there. See, he goes, there's a bit of contact between the two of them there. He's went into a half spin. He's nearly lost it, but he's just about kept it on the track there. Keane was optimistic, he nearly made it work, but in the end he has to stay in P5.
Yeah, he needed to go for it, to be fair. He's down on ERS and he's going to find himself stuck in the DRS train again, and despite the fact he's on fresh soft tyres, and I'm wondering now, without that ERS available at his disposal, is 5th place the maximum he's going to manage, and is that going to be a potential opportunity missed for Outplayed Racing? We'll have to see what happens over the next 3.5 laps as Nehemiah, can you believe Nehemiah is battling with Juventus rating Francesco at the moment, and what was a pole sitter looking so quick is now at serious risk of falling down as far as 16th place. What a disappointing race it has been from Nehemiah.
Yeah, it's not been ideal for him, certainly. A race to forget. Just seeing here that it's happening for the battle for P8 Legend on those old mediums. Might be a bit of a sitting duck now. Elite Risk all over the back of him. He's in P9. He's got those penalties, but he's not bothering. On to lap 30 on. He goes going round the outside of the Ferrari. Let's see if he can make the move stick. Those soft tyres with the grip advantage. He's going off the track as well just to make sure. But in the end, he did make that move stick. And up into P8 goes the Williams.
I'm not sure if that position's going to stand, you know, if he's ended up overtaking someone off of the barrels of the track in order to complete the overtake going into a corner. I have a feeling Elite Risk is not going to be able to hold on to that corner, and I have a feeling he's not going to try and hold off a defence here from Legend. Here comes then Legend. No, in fact, he is going to try and defend from it here, and Rusty is going to be saying, oh, I've got a potential opportunity to mix things up here. He's in P10 with a time penalty as well. Elite Risk, though, he'd have to argue potentially might have to give that position back up here, but he's trying to defend it.
Yeah, he is. He's giving it his absolute best. He might not have the tyre advantage, but he's certainly well up for it. Well up for trying to keep every point he can get. As he's nearly going down the inside there while he risks here on the soft. So it was really fair play to Legend here on those medium tyres, trying to make the most of what he's got.
And here we go again, and I did say that the issue now is going to be about ERS management, and I'm looking at Keane and Outplayed Racing. They're struggling to get any traction on the straights. They've got the traction out of the corners, but I'm looking at that Alpha Tauri, and look at how much time he's going to gain here potentially off Lucas with the DRS open, but no ERS available. Absolutely zero inroads are being making, and he's now stuck in this gap for P5, and I'm wondering if he's not going to be able to make an inroads, and potentially might have just cost Outplayed Racing a podium, and I'm thinking that Lucas getting a big disconnection going off of the track there, but he stays in P4.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting there, and he's just about staying in P4. There's Lucas Keane not really making the most of those soft compounded tyres, as is this Rusty and Legend going side by side, those old mediums versus the fresh mediums. He's going round the outside. Oh, he's broken pretty late. He's just about gave room on the inside for the Ferrari as Rusty, and there you have it. What a move that was there from NRX Rusty. Now Legend, he's under pressure from Scyther on those soft compounded tyres. He is a man on an absolute mission, and round the outside he goes up into P10. What a move indeed.
What a move into 10th place. Scyther at one point looking like he was going to be out of the equation of getting into the top 10. Gets a move around the outside on Legend, who was making some serious inroads from P20, is now in this really awful scenario of falling down the standings on old medium tyres. He was looking so sharp, but strategy has not fell in the favour of the Talent Factory for Legend, but it's falling in the favour of his teammate Max at the moment, who's got a real big buffer to Keane, who's just not able to make any inroads whatsoever without any ERS. Look, he's down to 2. He's on 0. He's got no electrical energy powering the V6 power unit in the back of that car, and he is actually losing time to Lucas on the straights. Can you believe it?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. You able to write it, but there you have it. It's just the softs maybe not really where they want to be at this point in time. Just looking at Wilson, he'd maybe possibly teed up an overtake for P2 at this stage in the race, but I think they're straight a little bit too short for the McLaren's liking. And yeah, it will be P3 for the McLaren.
Yeah, he's keeping it nice and steady. This is now the final lap of this race, and suddenly I don't want this race to end. It's been absolutely monumental. 2.5 hours of streaming. That's a big mistake from, looks like NRX Rusty is now down to P10. Scyther up to P9. Make that P8 as Elite Risk is trying his hardest to get some good points on the board for SLR. They need them at the moment. Rusty is looking for it and gets into a spin at turn 8, and he's down to P16.
Oh wow, it's unfortunate there for Rusty and all of that hard work just gone to pot. There's a Mercedes and Nico going for some moves. Oh wow, what an overtake that could have been. It's only for P12, but this could be for points when the penalties are applied, but can't get anything done. The Haas is coming back at him down the inside. There's a bit of contact between the two, a bit of rubbing, but in the end, I think it might just be Nico's move.
It might just be Nico's move, either way, so it's definitely, we know, Max's race as he's going to come across the line and takes victory here in Portugal from Asico, from Wilson, from Lucas, from Kian, Louis, Carperson gets some points to WOR, desperately needed here with Scyther finishing in 8th and Elite Risk getting penalties. He falls all the way down as far as P15, and SLR are going to be so disappointed that they've missed out on that opportunity as they finish 15th and 16th, and in the end the race is over and done with, and it is the Talent Factory who take the top step of the podium once again.
Yeah, Joe, unbelievable race all round. It was a bit of a slow burner. We had our disconnection issues with this LE. It was absolutely worth the wait. Congratulations to the race with him, because you know what, he put an absolute shift and he didn't really look unfazed, and the race pace was absolutely certainly there. And Max, full credit does go to him. So yeah, what a race that was.
149 of you just tuned into what is a very, very intense end to that race in the end, but it is the Talent Factory who take their second win of the season, and PlayStation really starting to flex their dominance now in this cross-play tournament. Absolutely fantastic viewing, to say the least, between those drivers, and you know what, really, really looking forward to seeing what we've got coming up between all of those, to say the least then. And that is going to be about it. We'll take a look at the final podium celebrations before we take a look at the very provisional standings. Again, my apologies to Luke and the team for that one, because that is going to be a very difficult one to judge with that JTO 40 incident, to say the least. We'll take a look then, though, at those final standings, and a very, very great victory in the end for TF Max, who takes the top step of the podium after starting P3 in the end, and Asicone will be happy with second, but they know they OP have got the challenge here to put some serious inroads on the teams in front. PSR in the end do get a podium with third place through Wilson, Lucas in fourth, Kian in fifth, Louis finishes in sixth with Person in seventh, and Scyther, a very, very good P8 considering all of the circumstances around him. He finishes in eighth with Stokey in ninth, and Legend rounding out the top 10. At the back, Nico finishes in the end in 11th with Tijin in 12th, and Nehemar, what a disappointing stuff for Nehemiah, finishing in 13th with Francesco in 14th. Ghost Colt will not classify. Elite Risks in 16th with Rusty in 17th after spinning at turn 8, and then Finn JTO 40, and of course then Jensen at the end. That is going to be it for what has been a very, very interesting Portuguese Grand Prix, and what has been a very eventful Portuguese Grand Prix. Hopefully we won't have the same issues when we do come back to you in 1 week's time with what is going to be a very interesting round 3 at Belgium. Keep an eye out on the Discord and of course the Twitter at WOR League _. From myself, Jota, from Callum, and from the rest of the team here at WOR headquarters, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye for now.